expected to be hit. A rally will be held at Westminster while George Osborne delivers the budget. In other news, a £4,000 reward's being offered for information about the death of a motorcyclist in High Wycombe last October. 52-year-old Jeremy Edwards from Loudwater died after his blue Honda hit a large piece of concrete that had been deliberately moved into the carriageway. The incident on Dawes Hill Lane happened at around 6:30am on Sunday, October the 7th. Wind turbines almost as high as the London Eye could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're given the go-ahead at a planning meeting today. Aylesbury Vale District Council will decide whether to give permission for 4 turbines to be built at Stoke Hammond. Lorna Hankin has the details.
The developers, Force 9 Energy, submitted their plans to erect the turbines and associated buildings next to Dorcas Lane back in December 2011. They say it would generate enough energy to power nearly 5,000 homes, but residents say they're too tall, very near to homes, and that the wind farms are an unreliable source of energy. A decision is expected to be made today at the meeting, which starts at 1 o'clock.
A major building and restoration project about to begin at Bletchley Park. The National Lottery is covering the £7 million cost of the work, timed to finish to coincide with the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings in June 2014. The Codebreakers Hut will be restored and Block C will become a visitors' centre, as architect Kennedy O'Callaghan explained.
Our approach to this building is to restore it to its wartime layout and character. And the idea being that when you enter into Block C, you step back in time and you begin to see what Bletchley Park was like during the war.
In sport, some good news for Luton Town. They beat Stockport 1-0 in the conference last night, with skipper Steve McNulty scoring the only goal in the first half. The weather, sunshine, showers and a top temperature of 5 degrees Celsius. That's 41 degrees Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC 3 Counties Radio. First for news.
Do us a favour.
Yeah.
Next time you do the weather and you say sunshine, could you do it Oasis-style-y? It would sound nice to me, and I'm hoping to some of the listeners as well.
Well, you're thinking a bit more sunshine.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Thank you. Morning. That was that set me up in the mood for the show this morning. This is Iain Lee, BBC 3 Counties Radio. How are you this morning? Tough day yesterday, very tough day. Car broke down twice on the way home. Oh, I'll bore you with that later on, don't worry. Lots coming up this morning, including sing hosannas, children, it's budget day. The Chancellor will lay out his economic plans for the next year. I'll be finding out exactly what it means for you. A housing association is being criticised because they're questioning whether tenants could afford Sky, TV, fags, booze and bingo. Is there anything wrong with that? Sky's a luxury, isn't it? If you're struggling with the so-called bedroom tax and you've got Sky, well, you have no right to complain. And to be a guest on this programme, we don't just take anybody on. It takes a lot of effort. Find out why a Kings Langley man is running 80 miles from his home to our studio in Luton just to do an interview. That's right, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, Ian, that's absolutely correct. I'm in Kings Langley live right now. Matthew Loddy, he is gearing up to do 30 marathons in 30 days, and he's going to be running 18 miles from his home here in Kings Langley to meet you in our studios in Luton, hopefully before 9 o'clock. Will he make it? Stay tuned, you'll find out more.
Tell him to get a wiggle on, please, Justin.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Budget day, budget day, budget day. Later today, the Chancellor, George Osborne, will deliver his 4th budget. He's doing it against the backdrop of one of the worst economic climates in a century. Well, to coincide with today's budget, there's a strike by Public Services Union and rallies taking place. Government offices across Beds, Herts and Bucks are affected. Among the places where there are pickets, in the tax office in George Street in Luton. Well, our business reporter is Tony Bonsignori. So, Tony, what's happening? What will be the general message from the Chancellor today?
Good morning. Yeah, I think the general message from George Osborne today is a difficult one. I think he has a balancing act here. On the one hand, I think he wants to be positive. I think he wants to talk about the recovery that's underway. But on the other hand, I think he needs to acknowledge that this is a very, very disappointing economic environment, and also the public finances as well. Not at all where he would have wanted them to be 3 years ago, nearly 3 years ago now, when the coalition came into power. So I think there will be, as I say, very, very kind of very delicate balancing act, and also expect to hear a lot about strivers as well. This is going to be the big political message, I think, from the Conservatives, certainly up till the next election. They say they want a budget for people who want to work hard and get on.
Oh dear, that's me out of the running then. What bad news can we expect, Tony?
Right, I think most of the bad news is going to be on the economy. It's the big stuff is going to be where there's the really bad news. So I say we get the latest forecast from the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility. I think they might yet downgrade their forecasts again. Already the government, you might remember, has pushed back its plans to eliminate the structural deficit. That's the kind of underlying deficit, the bit that doesn't go up and down with the economy. It was supposed to get rid of that by 2015. Now it's not going to be 2018. I mean, it might be pushed back further. It's unlikely, given that the autumn statement was only 3 months ago. But the real bad news, I think, is going to be spending cuts. We've already heard about this over the past 24 hours. Another £2.5 billion to be cut across Whitehall, and that's not good news for public servants, not good news for the public sector.
Will there be any good news at all?
Yeah, there'll be lots of sweeteners, I think, in this today. If the big picture is grim today, and it is likely to be grim, and of course, you know, the way it's manifesting itself for most of us is the big squeeze. We're all feeling prices going up quicker than our wages, or most of us are anyway. There are going to be things in here the government, wants to try and help people, wants to leave people feeling a bit better. So, for example, working parents, we already know that the government's planning to provide some money for childcare for working parents. Low earners, well, they might get some help too. The personal tax allowance might be increased. Motorists might be yet another delay or even cancellation of a planned rise in fuel duty. And the other area I'll point you to, homeowners as well, might be an expanded right to buy scheme or even kind of mortgage guarantees for prospective homeowners. So all those areas, I think there will be these little sweeteners. I think the Chancellor wants, by the time he sits down about half past one, he doesn't want us to feel all completely miserable. He wants us to feel that there is something to look forward to.
Tony Bontanori, business reporter, thank you very much indeed. Well, this morning, dear listener, I'm going to give you the chance. I'm going to make you the Chancellor. What one thing would you change? What one thing, as Chancellor, would you change to pull us out of this mess, I guess? 08459 455 555. You, dear listener, are my Chancellor this morning. Give me one thing that you would include in the budget to help you, help your family, help your town or your county. 08459 455 555. Going off on a tangent, I'm having a real soft spot for Paul McCartney at the moment, even the slightly schmaltzy songs.
I can wait another day until I call you. You've only got my heart on a string and everything aflutter. But another lonely night might take forever. We've only got each other to blame. It's all the same to me, love, 'cause I know what I feel to be right. No more lonely nights, no more lonely nights. You're my guiding light, day or night I'm always there. May I never miss the thrill of being near you. And if it takes a couple of years to turn your tears to laughter, I will do what I feel to be right. No more lonely night, never be another. No more lonely night. You're my guiding light, day or night I'm always there, and I won't go away. Yes, I know what I feel to be right. No more lonely nights, never be another. No more lonely nights. You're my guiding light, day or night, I'm always there. And I won't go away until you tell me so. No, I'll never go away. No, I won't go away until you tell me so. No, I'll never go away. No more lonely nights. No.
Right, Paul McCartney gets a lot of flack. Okay, some of it is justified, and there'll be people sneering. There'll be all the people on the internet sneering. I've played No More Lonely Nights by Paul McCartney. Okay? All of you sneerers, you go and write a song half as good as that. I dare you. Go and write a song half as good as No More Lonely Nights by Paul McCartney. You won't be able to. During one of Catherine Boyle's during one of Catherine Boyle's news breaks, I'm going to go to a well-known internet retailer and treat myself to a cheeky best of Paul McCartney. That's what I'm going to do. I can see you eating producer Laura next door. How dare you? I know you're pregnant and stuff, but for goodness sakes, don't snack. Very, very, very horrible day yesterday. I won't bore you too much, but I feel I have to let someone know. You know, I didn't come in on Monday because my car broke down. Well, some people came out and fixed it. A roadside recovery service came out and fixed it. Right? Broke down twice on the way home yesterday. I got home at 5 o'clock. The first time it broke down was off the A1 near the M25. Lansdowne Road was the name of the road. I phoned up the recovery service. Where are you, sir? I'm in Lansdowne Road. Where's that? It's just off the A1, just before the M25. Okay. And where's that? Excuse me? What area are you in? I don't know. I've given you the street name. That's actually quite specific. Don't know. We need to know the area you're in, sir. I've given you the street name. Anyway, the fella came and fixed it. 10 minutes later, it went again. The coils, for those interested, my coil's gone. It was like speed yesterday. If I kept it above 50 miles an hour, the momentum would keep it moving. If I went below 50, I had to pull over, lift up the bonnet and whack the engine. Broke down again as well on the way home. Oh, what a day. Never mind, I'm here. That's the main thing. I stayed in a very luxurious hotel last night in Luton, just for you, dear listener. I'm paying to present this show for you, and I hope you appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. 08459 455 555. If you're struggling with this so-called bedroom tax, get rid of Sky, stop smoking and give up the bingo. That's what one councillor is saying in the north of England, and do you know what? I kind of agree. Right, coming up to 6:15, let's get the travel news now. Here's James Wally.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Ian. Well, looking OK on the motorways at the moment. M1 moving well on camera. No problems on the M25. Just checking the roadworks between junctions 23 and 25. There's a 50 mile an hour limit for the major works, of course, there, but no problems at the moment. And no reported problems for the A6 or the A5. If you're heading onto the trains, generally a good service across the three counties. I'm James Worley, BBC Three Counties Radio.
James, thank you very much. Right, it's 6:15. It's Wednesday, the 20th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Chancellor will deliver his budget today, hoping to avoid the bruising criticism that met his efforts last year. Workers at the government's tax office in Luton will be among thousands of civil service union members staging a 24-hour strike today in dispute over pay, pensions and working conditions. In sport, MK Dons lost 2-1 at Crewe last night and had defender Anthony Kay sent off in the second half. The weather today for beds, hearts and bucks. Sunshine, showers and a top temperature of 5 degrees. Sunshine. Coming up, work to create a new visitor centre and to restore some of the code-breaking huts at Bletchley Park is about to begin. We'll find out more before 6:30.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Nick Coffer across beds, hearts and bucks.
This Friday, my tour of beds, hearts and bucks continues live from the Star and Garter in Silsoe.
Nick Coffer.
I'll be learning about the art of bell ringing with the Guild of Bell Ringers, meeting loads of local personalities and bringing you live music.
Weekdays from 12.
Plus, I'll be joining Fibs and Fables, a group of storytellers who enjoy nothing more than biscuits, open fires and good books.
Nick Coffer.
Live from the Star and Garter in Silsoe this Friday from midday.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I love that music. I want that as my ringtone. That's the bounciest, happiest music I've ever heard. Apart from the music when you phone up Royal Mail. I don't know if it is. A few years ago, their hold music was wonderful. I once phoned them up and they yes, can I help you, Royal Mail? Yeah, could you put me back on hold, please? I want to hear the music. Okay, and they did. Wonderful. Now, I must get on because we've got to do this quickly, otherwise the whole show depends on these next 2 minutes. A man from Kings Langley is running 18 miles from his home to Luton just to do an interview in our studios. He's called Matthew Loddy. We're giving him 2.5 hours to get here. He's out and about with our marathon correspondent, the super fit Justin Dealey. Justin.
Iain, you're absolutely spot on. Matt, can you just describe to our listeners what you're wearing, first of all, this morning?
I've got a nice skin-tight pair of skin bottoms, compression tights, shorts, luminous top and a vest.
Looking the part. Now, some people may be thinking, why on earth are you running 18 miles to go and speak to Iain Lee, Kings Langley to Luton? But this is in preparation for your new challenge, 30 marathons in 30 days, which starts this weekend.
Yes, starts this weekend in sunny Scotland. The weather forecast isn't too good. Yes, today it was an ideal opportunity. I'm going running anyway, so why not run to a radio station and get some exposure?
I mean, in saying that, though, when somebody phoned you and said, "Hi, it's BBC Three Counties Radio here. Can you run from Kings Langley to Luton for an interview?" You must have thought we were mad.
Well, yes, I thought it was a little bit of a strange request, but yeah, it's worth doing.
We can see you in preparation. So you're doing this for a fantastic cause, hoping to raise thousands of pounds. Tell us more about that.
Yes, I'm trying to raise thousands of pounds, hopefully £100,000 for Teenage Cancer Trust, a charity we support that looks after, as it says, teenagers 13 years old to 25 in the worst possible time of their life.
And people might recognise your name because last year you went a bit further. You did 100 marathons. Yes, if anybody's just waking up, you're not hearing things. You did 100 marathons in 100 days.
Yes, I did. I'm actually not a runner. I started running 19 months ago. Before that, I'd done a half marathon 13 years before. I put the couch pounds on. Unfortunately, a friend passed away. And I promised to do that. I said I'd run 100 marathons in 100 days, so I trained and I did that last January to April.
Fair play to you. Right, one final question. We know you're going to be running from here to Luton. Tell us about the route. How long is it going to take? Will you make it before 9 o'clock?
Hopefully I'll make it before 9 o'clock. I'm running through Kings Langley High Street, through to Hemel Hempstead, right through the Marlows, up the Old Town, onto the Redbourne Road, round Redbourne, into Harpenden, along Harpenden up and down into Luton.
You're a brave man. Matt, on your way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the route starts right now, Iain.
Justin, sorry, are you... Because you're going to be following him all day.
I will, yes.
Are you not running with him?
No.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm obviously watching and, commentating.
You're in the car, aren't you?
I'm in the car, yes.
And you're so lazy today, you've even got you've got Hugo in to drive the car for you.
That's not true. Hugo is here to take photographs of this incredible event, which is going to be happening live across beds, hearts and bucks. So, yes, we're going to be in the radio car. We're going to be behind Matt, so look out for us. You've heard the route there. Hopefully, leaving in around 30 seconds. Matt now is doing something, quite what he's doing, but hopefully he's going to be with you in our studios at 10 to 9 telling you more about his new challenge, 30 marathons in 30 days.
He's slacking, Justin. He did 100 marathons and now he's only down to 30. What a slacker. Justin, excellent stuff. We'll speak to you later on. That's Justin Dealey out there with Matthew Loddy, who's running 18 miles to get to the studio today. If you want to make a donation, you can do, of course. Text to make a £3 donation. Text the word RUN30 to 70300. 70300. And Teenage Cancer Trust receives 100% of every text donation.
You're a falling star. You're the getaway car. You're the line in the sand when I go too far. You're the swimming pool on an August day. and you're the perfect thing to say. And you play it coy, but it's kinda cute. Oh, when you smile at me, you know exactly what you do. Baby, don't pretend that you don't know it's true, 'cause you can see it when I look at you. And in this crazy life, and through these crazy times, it's you, you make me sing your every line, your every word, your everything. You're a carousel, you're always well, and you light me up when you ring my bell. You're a mystery, you're from outer space, you're every minute of my everyday. And I can't believe that I'm your man, and I get to kiss you, baby, just because I can. Whatever comes our way, I will see it through, and you know that's what our love can do. And in this crazy life, and through these crazy times, it's you, you make me sing your every line, your every word, your everything. Every word, you're everything. You're every song, and I sing along, 'cause you're my everything. Yeah, yeah. So
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's coming up to 6:24 now. Work to create a new visitor centre and to restore some of the code-breaking huts at Bletchley Park is about to begin. The restoration work was made possible thanks to over £7 million of heritage lottery money. It's due to be completed by June 2014 to coincide with the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Well, we sent our reporter, Tony Fisher, who served in the Second World War, for a behind-the-scenes look, and he started by talking to the chief executive of the park, Iain Standen.
Iain, we're standing in Hut 6, used during the war for code breaking. We're standing outside this room, which we can't actually go into because basically it's got no floor. The floor's collapsed. Looks like the part of the roof is collapsing. There's wires dangling down from it. The radiator's at an angle. The windows at an angle. How are you going to set about going back to restoring it to its original glory, if that's the right word?
Well, our architects and our project managers will look at how we can coordinate all this, but basically we'll be left in many cases with just the frameworks of the building, with all the panelling taken out and replaced. Where it's fit for purpose, it can go back in. Where it's not, to be replaced by either like-for-like material, or where, for things like asbestos, we can't put asbestos back in, we'll replace them with appropriate replacements.
So how do you recreate what was sort of going on here? You're going to put desks in and that sort of thing, or? A
combination of techniques. It's what's called light touch interpretation. So perhaps one room like this might well be dressed with desks and what have you to look like it was during the war, perhaps with a projection on the wall showing the images of a chap or what have you working here. Another room, perhaps across the corridor here, might just have audio-visual telling the story. Others might just be dressed, just be left as they were. So it gives people a sort of feeling as they walk through to get an idea of the atmosphere in here. So a bit of sound, just evoking perhaps typewriters, telephones going off, that sort of thing.
Kennedy O'Callaghan, architect.
Kennedy, we've moved into Block C, which was the card indexing block. This is also in a very dilapidated state. There's pigeon poo everywhere, roofs are falling in, windows are in a state, cobwebs everywhere, a bit like the huts. This is the block that's going to be turned into the visitor centre. I mean, it's hard to see that in its present state, but this is going to be the first thing that people see when they come into the centre, isn't it?
Yes. And our approach to this building is to restore it to its wartime layout and character. And the idea being that when you enter into Block C, you step back in time and you begin to see what Bletchley Park was like during the war. We have wartime plans of the building, and we can remove partitions which were put in when it was used as a training college by GCHQ, and we know the original layout of the building and we'll revert to that.
My name's Steve Prowse. I'm a project manager with Appleyards.
Steve, we're standing in the middle of Bletchley Park. We're outside. We've gone through Block C and the huts. We're by the fountain, by the lake. How is this whole project going to change the whole face of Bletchley Park?
The aim is that when the visitor arrives, the cars are all, parked out of the way, and the visitor experience starts as soon as they enter into Block C.
As I said to Ken, in Block C, can it all be done by next year, June 2014? Yeah. Seems quite a stretch.
Well, as project manager, it's my
your job.
It's my plan, and in a way, the Bletchley atmosphere does actually rub off on the project team. Actually, because those guys and girls, they were working to tremendous, time constraints. And I've said to the project team, if they could do it with the materials that they had, then there's no excuse for us as a team to be able to deliver that.
Tony Fisher there, reporting from Bletchley Park. Don't forget today's budget day. I'm giving you the chance to set your own budget. You're the governor, you're the chancellor. For one day, what would you include in the budget? Ups and downs, taxes, taking taxes off. What would you include to kickstart the country, or just to make your life a little bit better? There's always the fuss, isn't there, around beer and fags. Beer's gone up, fags have gone down. But there are slightly more important things than that, but if you think that's important, 08459 455 555. As Chancellor today, what would you include in your own personal budget to make your life a little bit better? You can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR as well. But right now, let's get the latest travel news. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Ian. Good morning. The M25 anti-clockwise, it's starting to build up now. It's looking slow from junction 26 at Waltham Abbey through to 25 at Enfield, approaching the roadworks. But looking at the speed sensors, things do seem to be moving okay through the roadworks section right now. Remember, we have got narrow lanes and a 50-mile-an-hour speed restriction from the A1M to the A10, junction 23 to 25 in both directions. A little bit further around the M25, it's pretty slow from junction 19 at Watford to 18 at Chorleywood on the anti-clockwise side as well. If anyone's going northbound up the M1, the hard shoulder's closed and there's a 50-mile-an-hour restriction from junction 14 at Milton Keynes through to 15 at Northampton. And for anyone who's flying into Luton today, so if you're going to pick up some friends or family, delays are possible to passengers arriving in the UK through border control because of industrial action. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. On a slightly similar tangent, a housing association in Manchester has said, listen, if you're struggling with this so-called bedroom tax, slightly lazy media title for it, but then get rid of your Sky, get rid of your fags, get rid of your booze and your bingo. There's been uproar about this, but I can't see why there's been uproar. Surely all of those things are a luxury, aren't they? 08459 455 555. Here's someone who couldn't live without any of those things. It's Catherine Boyle.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 6:30. The headlines: the Chancellor will deliver his budget today, hoping to avoid the bruising criticism that met his efforts last year. Workers at the Inland Revenue's offices in Luton are set to join thousands of civil service union members in a nationwide strike over pay, pensions and working conditions. And wind turbines almost as high as the London Eye could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're given the go-ahead at a planning meeting later today.
Beds, Herts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, Luton Town returned to winning ways in the conference last night, beating Stockport 1-0 at Kenilworth Road. Skipper Steve McNulty scored the only goal in the first half, leaving manager John Still reasonably impressed.
I'm really pleased with how we're going defensively. We're not making the most of our opportunities. I think we should have done better with our opportunities. I thought we were worthy of more goals. That's the only disappointment, though.
MK Dons lost 2-1 at Crewe last night and had defender Anthony Kay sent off in the second half for 2 yellow cards. The defeat damages the side's slim chances of making the playoffs, and manager Carl Robinson criticised his players.
I apologise for the fans who made the trip down today. I have to hold my hands up and accept the responsibility of us being very, very poor. That was a shambles. I've just told them in there. Some of them might be playing for the football club this next season. Keep up performance like that. That's not good enough. It's not acceptable.
Also in League One, Stevenage lost 2-0 at Bury. Borough goalkeeper Steve Arnold saved from the penalty spot in the first half, but Stevenage couldn't avoid defeat. Boss Gary Smith couldn't hide his frustration.
Continues our long run of Jekyll and Hyde performances, and I would suspect everybody that had seen the game on Saturday would agree that it bore no resemblance to what they'd seen at home against Sheffield United, and that has been the challenge for the coaching staff and the players to find some consistency, and yet again tonight we've not found it.
There was also disappointment for Wycombe Wanderers in League 2. The Chairboys lost 1-0 at Bradford. In Conference North, Bishop Stortford lost 2-0 at home to Harrogate. In the Southern Premier Division, Chesham beat Bashley 3-1 and Bedford lost 3-0 at Leamington, while Hemel Hempstead beat Bedworth 2-1. And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 7 o'clock.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Coming up in the next half an hour, wind turbines, which would be 125 metres high, could be built in part of Buckinghamshire if plans get the thumbs up today. A similar project was agreed 3 years ago in Milton Keynes. We'll have a look at what impact it's had on the local area there. And Matthew Loddy from Kings Langley is running 18 miles just to do an interview with me in Luton this morning. Oh dear, goodness gracious me. Well, Justin Dealey's following him in a car as he makes his way through Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. We'll catch up with him in about 20 minutes' time to find out where he is. Now, it's budget day today. I'm giving you the position of Chancellor. What would you include in your budget? Peter in Walmer Green. Peter, what would you include in your budget today?
I'd cap rents for a start.
You'd cap rents?
Yes.
Why?
Because in the last year...
Yes.
Finishing April the 1st, starting April the 1st, really.
Yes.
My rents have gone up, my social rent's gone up will have gone up by £600 a year.
Ooh.
Now, that £400 of that, roughly, is going to be less money I'm going to spend in retail shops, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because I've got no other way of saving. Now, when we talk about the other part, you just mentioned a short while ago, that interested me as well.
The other part?
Beer, fags and booze.
Oh, yeah, there's a housing association. It's up north, but I kind of agree with them saying, listen, if you're struggling with this bedroom tax, you're lost in benefits because you've got an extra spare room, then you should get rid of Sky, fags, beer and bingo. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Listen, they're not all beers, fags and bingo. Sorry? Lots of the people are same as you, exactly the same as you, but they're on hard times, if you like.
Oh, of course, but you
and their children... So, hold on a minute. And their children go out to fight for this country. Large majority of the people who fight for this country go from the poorer families. Don't hesitate in believing that, because that's true.
OK, but what's that got to do with... If you've got Sky TV and you smoke fags and you play bingo and you're struggling because you're losing some of your benefits because of this, in inverted commas, bedroom tax, then you should get rid of the Sky and the fags and the bingo.
Sky TV, I agree.
Luxury. Fags,
it's
luxury?
A luxury. No, listen...
Are fags a luxury?
They're addictive.
Yeah, but are they a luxury?
No, not really.
Is bingo a luxury?
Well, you people don't go bingo these days.
Of course they go. Peter, listen, don't do that because we're going to get loads of bingo fanatics phoning up and complaining now.
You don't get that many. If you're talking about the country, you don't get that many going to bingo. Very few.
Can I just say, if you disagree with Peter, if you're a huge bingo fan, 08459. You hold on a minute. 08459 455 555. Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about the footfall in the shops. My rent increase...
Was I talking about that?
Well, that's part of what's happening.
Yes.
If you don't include that, you're going to get so many retailers. The footfall in the shops will be greatly reduced.
OK, Peter, listen, thank you very much there. Peter, for his... If he were Chancellor, he would cap the rents on social housing. And going off on that, so they're kind of connected slightly. There's a thin thread connecting those. This housing association that said, listen, if you're struggling with the cut in benefits, the bedroom tax, and if you've got Sky and you smoke and you go to bingo and you drink, well, stop doing those. Those are luxuries. Do you agree? And is Peter right? No one plays bingo anymore? 08459 455 555. I bet we have thousands of bingo players listening to this show right now. Come on and defend yourself, please.
Her face is a map of the world, is a map of the world. You can see she's a beautiful girl, she's a beautiful girl. And everything around her is a silver pool of light. The people who surround her feel the benefit of it, it makes you count.
Wind turbines. Almost the height of the London Eye could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're approved at a planning meeting today. Aylesbury Vale District Council will decide whether to give permission for 4 turbines and associated buildings to be put up in Stoke Hammond. A similar project led to 7 turbines being put up at Emberton near Milton Keynes in 2010, despite opposition to the proposals. Well, our reporter Ewan Duncan visited the area to see if there's still the same strength of feeling among local residents nearly 3 years later.
When I first saw them, it was driving up to look at the house, and I thought they were rather graceful. So it didn't bother us at all. Our old landmark used to be Didcot Power Station, so it's a huge improvement on that. I can understand people not wanting them close to them, but these are a long way from us. Though you can still hear them on a windy day when the wind is in our direction.
Our television has been virtually destroyed. Everything goes through a small box, but we don't get half the programmes we used to get. Our other thing is the promises were not kept by the wind farm developers.
And have you been able to do anything about the television aerial situation?
We've had an aerial company out 4 times, but we have not had complete success.
I'm not really happy with them. They are a blot on the landscape. You can see them for miles. Plus, we're not benefiting from them in any way at all. My electricity certainly hasn't gone down, so I don't see the point of them.
Although the actual view from some of the houses here, it's shielded in a way, isn't it?
Some of them it is as well, but I think once you get some up, then you want more. For instance, there's going to be one at the back, which we will be able to see out of our windows. We don't know when that's going through or not. There were grants available, but it didn't include solar panelling, so you think, what else could you use it for? You know, there was meant to be sort of money available for local residents to maybe do something, some sort of thing to, you know, reduce their bills, but it definitely did not include solar panels on your roof, which is what most people really would have gone for.
So a mixed reception to the wind turbines at Emberton. We can talk now to one of the people who was against the plans, Conservative Milton Keynes councillor Peter Geary. Morning, Peter.
Morning.
How much of a protest was there against the wind turbines being put up at Emberton?
Well, there was a massive local protest. I mean, it involved hundreds of local people who were very upset about what was being planned.
What's it like now they're in place? Do they cause problems?
Well, I mean, you heard some people saying, you know, they do hear them. It does cause noise issues to certain people. Visibly, they are worse than was expected at the time of planning. The photo montages that have been put together were not a very good representation of what they were going to be like, and it is significantly worse.
Try and describe to our listener, are there many properties near to the wind turbines?
I mean, they've picked the spot in Milton Keynes, the one spot in Milton Keynes that was the furthest from anywhere, so it's the biggest area of unspoilt landscape that there was. There are a number of houses within 100 metres of them, but you're talking about a handful of houses. But there are towns such as Oney, who are a couple of kilometres away from the site, who can see them, and they're very, very visible.
Is there not an argument, Peter, that these are quite majestic, graceful machines? And we've had wind turbines in the forms of windmills for centuries, haven't we?
You've had windmills for centuries, and windmills were about 50 or 60 foot high. Certainly a lot shorter than these. And the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people say they're majestic, they're fine. You heard the lady speaking before who said, you know, better than Didcot Power Station, and that's fine as well. And that's what some people think. To other people, the countryside, and certainly to planning permissions and things, the countryside is something that needs to be protected. It's something that's the best asset often that rural areas have. And to start industrialising what is a rural landscape is something that needs to be done for the very, very best of reasons, and not something that needs to be pushed through no matter what happens, just because of someone demands that this needs to be done, or developers know they can develop there. It's one of the problems with wind turbines. There's no thinking about this is where they should be, this is where they shouldn't be, like all other planning. It's we can build them here, so let's build them here. And after Petso came in Milton Keynes, we've now got 3 other applications coming in Milton Keynes. And every single area of rural landscape is certainly wanting to have wind turbines put there, no matter what.
What's your advice, Peter, to Aylesbury Vale District Council ahead of today's meeting?
I think they need to think very seriously about what they're doing, because it's something that's going to be seen for an awful long way around. I know they've considered it very seriously. I don't know what the recommendation they've got for their meeting is, but the policy is certainly allowing a number of areas for it to be refused, and they need to very much consider whether that's what they want to do, because I think there's an awful lot of reasons why these applications could be refused if councils are gutsy enough to go ahead and do it.
Peter, are you a bingo player?
Not generally, no.
No, we're trying to... sorry to go off on a slight tangent. We just had a gentleman calling in saying that no one plays bingo anymore, and I don't believe that. And I just kind of picked up a vibe that maybe you enjoyed a bit of bingo, but I got that wrong. I apologise.
No, I don't play bingo.
Peter, thank you very much indeed. That's Conservative Milton Keynes councillor Peter Geary talking about wind turbines. The reason I asked about the bingo is this housing association that said, listen, if you're struggling with this, in inverted commas, bedroom tax, then get rid of the luxuries, get rid of the Sky TV, get rid of the fags, the booze and the bingo. Well, it kind of makes sense to me. Although one caller has challenged that, saying, well, no one plays bingo anymore. I don't believe that for a second. 08459 455 555. Right, let's get the travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And so far this morning, things are moving fine on the roads across the three counties. A little bit heavy already on the M25 anti-clockwise from junction 19 at Watford through to 18 at Chorleywood, but not too busy yet. Works continue in Beaconsfield on the A40. Going eastbound, there are some temporary traffic lights up for works between the A355 and Potkiln Lane, while in St Albans, Folly Lane has water main work at the junction with West View Road. And in Bedford, works continue on the A6 St John Street, there near to the junction with Rope Walk. On the trains, it's looking absolutely fine. No problems or delays on the departure boards. Adam Glenn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. 6:46. It's Wednesday the 20th of March. I'm Iain Lee and these are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Chancellor will deliver his budget today, hoping to avoid the bruising criticism that met his efforts last year. Workers at the Inland Revenue's offices in Luton are set to join thousands of civil service union members in a nationwide strike over pay, pensions and working conditions later. In sport, England cricketer James Anderson says he'll be fit to take part in the final test against New Zealand in Auckland tomorrow. Coming up, Matthew Loddy from Kings Langley is so desperate to be on this show, he's running 18 miles just to get to the studio. Well, Justin Dealey's following him as he makes his way through Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. We'll catch up with him before 7 to see how far he's got. But let's get the weather now with Lara Lewington.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Well, still some fog and frost to clear for many of us, but the day today, well, it's not looking too jolly, I'm afraid. A lot of cloud cover around and still quite a few showers to get through. By this afternoon, we will start to see some bursts of sunshine, though. But temperatures not topping about 5 degrees, so way below the average for this time of year. And come tonight, well, clear skies for most of us, but that is leaving way for a widespread ground frost, and those temperatures dropping to just -3 in places. So a very chilly start to the day tomorrow. Bright skies, however, although by later on in the day we are going to be seeing the cloud increasing and some strong easterly winds heading our way.
Lara, thank you very much indeed.
Every weekday morning from 9.
The JVS Show.
With the biggest questions.
Today on the Big Phone-In, I'm asking, would you support some dog breeds being removed from this country? Should traffic wardens be more lenient? Would the government be right to drop the minimum price for alcohol?
And the biggest opinions.
I think the tax is completely unfair.
It doesn't matter how old they are or how young they are. They're still your children.
It doesn't matter whether it's male or female or what. I'm disgusted with the people. You should have cut them people off.
The JVS Show.
Weekdays from 9.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Or you can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR. Is there anybody listening to this who plays bingo? It can't be completely dead in the three counties, can it? I love a bit of bingo, me. Ooh, eyes down for a full house.
I don't care who does her hair or what clothes she wears. I don't care if it's YSL. I don't care if it's Chanel. What matters to me is a strong belief. All this beauty is skin deep. Don't care about hair. Don't care about eyes. It's about pretty face don't work no more.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, marathon runner Matthew Loddy is running from his home in Kings Langley all the way to our studios in Luton. 18 miles. Is he bonkers? Well, we gave him 2.5 hours to complete the challenge. He's set off just after 6:15. He's doing it to raise the profile of a charity challenge, running 30 marathons in 30 days to raise money for the Teenage Cancer Trust, which is a cracking charity. I once got to introduce a band on stage at the Royal Albert Hall for the Teenage Cancer Trust. That band's name? Yeah, it was The Who. That's right, Dealey. I introduced The Who live on stage.
Oh, I am so jealous, you lucky man.
I also introduced BDI on stage that night, but we don't talk about that so much.
Let's forget about that one very, very quickly. But, Matt Loddy, an incredible man. Last year in 100 marathons in 100 days. This time, not quite as much. He's doing 30.
He's slowing down in his old age. 30 marathons in 30 days.
But in saying that, who else do you know who can say that they are doing 30 marathons in 30 days?
Listen, every radio station I've worked at for the last 15 years, some bright spark has said, hey, Iain, you should run the London Marathon for the station. Every time I've told them to get knotted. Never, ever going to do it.
That's a shame. I can't put you down. Well, this morning, Matt Loddy is running from his home in Kings Langley all the way to our studios in Luton to meet you for hopefully 10 to 9. It's around 18 miles. We're currently in Apsley, and we just pulled the radio car over for a second, and a moment ago, Matt, he run past us, and this is what happened. Well, Matt, we're now in Apsley. Gone about 4 kilometres. How do you feel?
Yeah, fine, not too bad. Stiffness went after a couple, so bedding in quite nicely.
And you spoke to us earlier on saying 2.5 hours. Are you still confident it's going to take 2.5 hours to get from Kings Langley to Luton?
Yeah, I'm not going to be far off.
Right, I'll let you crack on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Incredible though, Iain. I tell you what, he looks so fit. He looks so fit. And we've got the radio car with us. Also, we have Matt's wife with us as well. That's Karen, who is following us in the wagon. She now joins us live on BBC Three Counties Radio. Yes, Iain, you about to say something?
No, Catherine Boyle has sent me a message saying, why is Justin out of breath? Bearing in mind you're driving.
I'm out of breath just simply watching. It's incredible to watch this. Karen, welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us. Your husband, how has he changed in the last year? 100 marathons last year and now 30 marathons.
Slightly more crazy, but just the same old Matthew, yeah.
And just how proud are you of Matthew?
Incredibly proud of him, yeah, absolutely. He's been absolutely amazing. It obviously inspired by Phil, that was the start of it, and just great, brilliant.
And for those who know nothing about the cause, tell us more about Phil as well.
Yeah, Phil was a very close friend and a work colleague of ours that died of stomach cancer. And Matthew and Phil spoke about doing this challenge, actually walking from Portugal to England. And then obviously when we found out that Phil was going to be terminally ill, Matthew said, well, you've put me in it now, I'm going to have to do it and I'm going to have to run the challenge. So that was the start of it all, yeah.
And by the end of this, it'll be, 130 marathons in less than a year. And for those again who know nothing about this cause and nothing about your husband, he had never done a single marathon before, so it makes it even more amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. He'd always been very fit but had never done a marathon, and he will say he's not a runner, but I think he is now.
and do you think we're mad for asking your husband to run from Kings Langley to Luton to go and meet Iain Lee of all people?
No, and I think Iain should get himself out there and do the London Marathon.
There you go,
Iain.
Oh,
don't. I liked her until then. No, I'll write a cheque. I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to write a cheque instead. Just lastly, tell us more about this wagon, because people, of course, can follow us this morning. That they'll see our car, the radio car, and this. Tell us more about the wagon here.
Yeah, the wagon is obviously good. Following Matthew, his support wagon, and you can donate £3. Text run 30 to 70300.
And he starts on Saturday in Edinburgh, and all the money going to the Teenage Cancer Trust. So you're hoping to get about £100,000 again?
Yeah, 100,000 would be amazing.
And you think he might do it because people, I'm sure, will know about what your husband did last year, and again thinking, well, he's doing it again, another 30.
Yeah.
It's time, if they can, to put their hands in their pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think last year people thought, oh, there's no way someone's going to run 100 marathons in 100 days, but of course he did it. So now people know. So now hopefully everyone will donate.
How's his knees, by the way?
Not great. Lots of ice and a lot of tender care and loving, I think.
Bless you. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, so look out for us, Iain. The route we left Kings Langley this morning about 6:25 actually.
Yep.
So hopefully we're going going to be with you for about 10 to 9.
If he's not here at 10 to 9, he can't come in. That's the, well, no, do you know what I mean?
He'll be there, don't worry.
It's a tiny window he's got.
You won't miss him. He's in fluorescent outfits this morning, a fluorescent jacket, and the route itself, we're now in Apsley. Matt's gone ahead slightly now, so we're going to be going up to the old town at Hemel Hempstead, then we're going to be going down the Redbourne Road, through Harpenden, and then down into Luton to meet you, hopefully, for about 10 to 9.
Justin,
18 miles.
Before you crack on, treat yourself to a nice cigarette. You deserve it. Speak to you later, Justin dear. We'll have a welcome committee outside waiting for Matt as well as he does the run. Earlier on, we were talking about bingo. It's a luxury. Peter called in and said no one plays bingo anymore. Toby from Biggleswade, you disagree, don't you?
Good morning, Ian. I do disagree, and what's more, I think what you'd be surprised at is the average age of a bingo player.
God, well, it's 89, surely.
No, it's not. It's 28.
Is it?
Yes, it is. I used to.
I've got it, House! Oh, sorry. No, you're just saying the age. Yes, I apologise.
Yeah, no. It's 28 is the average age. I used to be a bingo caller in my university days in Bedford, and you kind of get the bug a little bit. And I still play occasionally today. I'm going in a couple of weekends' time to the local one in Biggleswade.
I used to go with my nan. I love a bit of bingo. I would. Hey, listen, any bingo houses in Beds, Herts and Bucks? I'll come and do some calling. I'd love a bit of bingo calling.
No, it's great fun, and the best bit is that you can get a round of drinks for under a tenner, and so it's better than some of the pubs. Yeah.
But Toby, would you agree that bingo is a luxury, and if you're struggling to make ends meet, cut it out of your lifestyle?
Yes, exactly, and a lot of people that do live frugally, and that's great. But I have witnessed people when I used to work at the bingo hall cash regular £50 cheques every day for 7 days a week, in order to get their fix. So I think it's the chase. They want to try and make the quick buck, and it never works.
Toby, thank you. There we go. People play bingo. We've proved it. Tony from Biggleswade used to be a bingo caller. He's a young man. Listen, any bingo houses in Luton, I'll come and do you a night of bingo. I'd love to. Here's the travel.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And thankfully things are moving pretty well across most of the three counties this morning. It's quite slow on the M25 though. Usual spots from junction 21 at the M1 round to 18 at Chorleywood. Then after a little bit of a reprieve, looking at the cameras from junction 17 at Maple Cross to 15 at the M4, it's all very slow moving again, mainly either side of the M40 junction. The A1M, it's crawling a little bit on the southbound side from junction 3 at St Albans through to junction 2 at Welham Green. Roadworks don't seem to be causing too much disruption so far this morning. Remember, though, in Milton Keynes Village that Tongwell Street is closed for resurfacing work near to the junction with Lindisfarne Drive. If you're commuting by rail, looking at the departure boards right now, your prospects are looking pretty good because pretty much everything running to time. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. So, you're the Chancellor. What things would you include in your budget to make your life better? And Sky, booze, fags and bingo. They're a luxury. You don't need those, do you?
Getting Beds, Herts and Bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. I'm Catherine Boyle. The headlines: Britain braced for the budget, civil servants on strike and makeover at Bletchley Park.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The Chancellor George Osborne delivers his budget this afternoon. He'll set out plans for spending around £2.5 billion, which comes from a new savings ordered from most government departments. He'll also reveal gloomy economic forecasts, as our economics editor Stephanie Flanders explains.
Whitehall departments have stuck to the Chancellor's budget plan since he came to the Treasury. It's the economy that's wildly departed from the script. Britain's national output has risen by just over 1% since the election, instead of the 7% he was hoping for in his first budget. Today, George Osborne is likely to announce that the official growth forecast for 2013 has fallen again from the 1.2% penciled in the autumn statement. As a result of all this, nearly every expert's predicting that the Chancellor will have to borrow more in this tax year on a like-for-like basis than he did in 2011-12, when the budget deficit was £121 billion. Mr Osborne avoided that particular embarrassment in December. Some think he'll somehow avoid it today. Either way, the budget book will show him borrowing at least £65 billion more in the last year of this Parliament than he was planning back in 2010. His critics think slow growth and higher than expected borrowing a reason for a change of course. Mr Osborne's convinced that this bad news has left him with even less room for manoeuvre than he had in 2010.
Meanwhile, workers across the three counties are set to join thousands of civil service union members in a nationwide strike over pay, pensions and working conditions. Government departments, driving test centres, museums and job centres are among the workplaces expected to be hit. Border agency staff at London Luton Airport could also take action. 100 leading academics have warned that a new national curriculum plan for schools in England will demand too much of young pupils by forcing them to learn by rote at the start of primary school. In a letter to the Daily Telegraph and The Independent, the academics claim children's education will be damaged by an overemphasis on memorising endless lists of spellings, facts and rules. A £4,000 reward is being offered for information about the death of a motorcyclist in High Wycombe last October. 52-year-old Jeremy Edwards from Loudwater died after his blue Honda hit a large piece of concrete that had been deliberately moved into the carriageway. Wind turbines almost as high as the London Eye could be built in Buckinghamshire if they get the go-ahead from planners later. Aylesbury Vale District Council will be considering an application to build 4 turbines in Stoke Hammond. And Bletchley Park's about to get a substantial makeover with a new visitor centre and restoration of some of the famous Codebreakers huts. Bletchley Park's Chief Executive Iain Standen told us how the visitor centre will look.
Perhaps one room like this might well be dressed with desks and what have you to look like it was during the war. Another room, perhaps across the corridor here, might just have audio-visual telling the story. So it gives people a sort of feeling as they walk through to get an idea of the atmosphere in here.
Milton Keynes Dons lost 2-1 at Crewe last night and had defender Anthony Kay sent off in the second half for 2 yellow cards. And the weather, sunshine, showers and a top temperature of 5 degrees Celsius. That's 41 Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio. First for news.
Thank you, Catherine. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's 3 minutes past 7. And it's Wednesday, the 20th of March. How are you this morning? Lots to cram in the next hour, including it's Budget Day. Happy Budget Day, everybody. Did you send your cards out? The Chancellor will lay out his economic plans for the next year. I'll be finding out exactly what it could mean for small businesses. Also, a housing association is being criticised because they're questioning whether tenants could afford Sky TV, fags, booze and bingo. Is there anything wrong with that? All of those things, they're luxuries, aren't they? And Matthew Loddy from Kings Langley is running 18 miles from his home to our studio in Luton this morning just to do an interview. We need to get a welcoming committee. Work experience, Ollie? I think that's going to be you. Justin Dealey is following his progress. We'll catch up with him in about half an hour. Lots of ways you can get in touch. You can go to the Facebook page and tell us what you would do as Chancellor. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333, start your text 3CR, or you can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, later today, the Chancellor George Osborne will deliver his 4th budget. He's doing it against the backdrop of one of the worst economic climates in a century. Our political reporter, Paul Scoynes, has been assessing some of the possible announcements. Paul, what's the background to this?
Well, Iain, I think the feeling amongst commentators is that it can't be worse than last time. Of course, you'll remember that the so-called pasty tax, caravan tax, the charity tax, they all combined to sort of give the budget the omni-shambles title that it got in the press. And of course, just beforehand as well, there were a lot of public debates between the coalition about what was going to be in the budget, which meant that most of it, I think, wasn't a surprise to any of us, really, by that stage. However, it doesn't seem like it's going to be so much that this time. Not so much more of a mystery. We did get a hint last night about some of the things that could be in today. However, there is pressure on George Osborne to deliver a budget that restores not just confidence in the economy, but also in his own party. There was a feeling yesterday that this was going to be a bit of a dull budget. There wasn't going to be too many things.
A dull budget?
Yes. Well, he's not got very much money to play with, right? So there won't be so many of the big ta-da surprises that the Chancellor likes to give on a budget day and hide inside his red box. But we will wait to see. I think there may be 1 or 2 areas where he's managed to claw some money back from other places where he can perhaps make those announcements.
What are the economists thinking he's going to say then? What clues have we had?
Well, we'll certainly get a forecast on the deficit. That's from the Office of Budgetary Responsibility, and that's the amount that the government borrows each year to cover the amount it spends and the amount it gets back in taxes. We'll find out if we're triple dipping, I think, officially. We might see whether or not the downward trend that's become quite familiar has been reversed. We are, however, I think, going to see unexpected, and I'm sure your next guest will explain that in a bit more detail, a slowdown in growth as well, which will almost certainly lead to higher taxes and further cuts in the future. Give you a bit of a sort of perhaps an indication on where we might get some announcements. In the care, we're going to hear a bit more about the pension. He announced on Sunday on the BBC that a flat rate pension will come in at £144 a week. That will come in a year earlier than expected. He's announced a cap on the amount of money the elderly pay for care. In terms of tax, we'll see the introduction, or the dropping, if you like, of the 50p tax. That will go down to 45 pence. We understand there'll also be an announcement to get closer to that magical figure of £10,000, that minimum amount that people start to earn tax at. And also corporation tax may drop as well to 20 pence. We'll also probably, with the news, you'll have remembered the stories about Google, about Amazon not paying the amount
These
of tax.
huge companies not paying what people perceive to be the appropriate amount of tax.
Yes, we may see something on that. We may see something on tax avoidance. However, economists are saying that because the personal allowance is rising, that in some ways this does equate to a tax cut, although I'm sure lots of people would argue that. We'll probably, Ian, see a lot of spending cuts, at least hinted at. We probably won't see the details so much today, but there's been talk again of another 2% off government departments. Some are safe. Schools, health, I believe HMRC as well to an extent are safe from further cuts at least.
What about the ones that everyone really cares about, the most important issues? Booze, fags and petrol. Those are the things that whatever else happens, that everyone seems to cling on to.
Well, there's been a feeling that the government did a bit of a U-turn on its plans to introduce minimum pricing on alcohol. So we'll probably see a rise in some booze. There is a sort of an automatic 2%. That beer duty escalator that's been talked about, that could be one of his little surprises. He may scrap that. Yep. But there may be a rise in spirits as well. I don't know about cigarettes. That will almost certainly they always tend to put 5p on fags. The other thing would be that the fuel duty, he may see if he can find his way to get rid of that rise that's due in the autumn as well. So that might be another little surprise.
Paul, thank you for that. We'll speak to you again in a second. We can talk now to Charles Little, who's a director from the Bedford firm Keane Shea Keynes, which specialises in accountancy for small businesses. Charles, thanks for coming in. What do you want to see the Chancellor doing for small businesses?
I think, morning Ian, I think that one of the biggest burdens is business rates. And in certain small businesses, it's a killer. I hate to say it, but in Luton, for new businesses, it's more attractive to start-ups than in Bedford. If you are,
why is that? That's
I think it's just a borough decision. Right. We have a client in Wellington Street that's enjoying a reduced level of rates. They wouldn't do so in Bedford.
Right.
So well done, Luton, in that respect. But it is if you talk to the businesses, the small businesses, the very small ones, see where you're paying rates of £8,000-9,000, it is a major item.
Oh, that's a huge percentage, isn't it?
And I think the other thing, of course, is that the rate of tax for self-employed people, whereas you're paying 20%, the self-employed people are paying 29%, and that extra 9% has got no value in terms of benefits or whatever. And that the class 4, 9% really is another killer for small businesses.
Well, but is he going to do anything with VAT? VAT seems to be a sticking point as well.
No, I don't see a move from 20% at all on that.
Would it help if he did?
If he went back to 17.5%, where will that come? What's income? It's a huge thing. I think one of the things that I feel strongly about is the fact that the government introduced this prompt payment code for small businesses, such that the larger businesses would try and reduce to speed up payments to small businesses. Now, in September, various companies reversed that. such that, for instance, Sainsbury's, Monsoon, accessories, made it worse for small businesses.
Right.
And the view is there's something like 30 billion...
So they made it worse by... They delayed it when they...
Sainsbury's went, I think, from 30 to 60 days.
And those 30 days are important for small businesses because they need that cash turnover to keep them going.
Well, there's a view, Ian, that something like £30 billion is tied up in late payment to small businesses. 30 billion. Some are saying 36 billion. That's a huge figure. You might think that was released... And this prompt payment code has got no teeth at all, and it's just it's been a joke really. And there's some years. I mean, we had a friend of mine who's FD in London, where a major company within a week of being appointed, his chairman said, right, I want those that owe us money reduced by 30 days, and I want 30 days extra for creditors. Do it. And if you're a small company, bills of £10,000, you're talking of 3 to 4 months before you get paid.
So the key things for you would be lowering the business rates, thank you, and also enforcing that 30-day quick payments.
Well, it isn't 30 days. You're talking 3 to 4 months.
Right.
Huge figures. And I say £30 billion. And the FT talks about the big PLCs being flush of cash. Well, it's because they haven't paid the small businesses.
Charles, thank you for that. Paul, there are also lots of protests going on today. What's happening?
Well, civil services in the government departments, including driving test centres, museums, galleries, and also some of the airports and border patrol workers as well, not to mention job centres, tax offices, those things. They're all kind of members of the PCS union, and 250,000 members will be walking out of their jobs today, including in Luton. There's going to be some protests in George Street in the town centre, so expect disruption there as well. There's a picket at George Street. What they're saying is it's coinciding with the budget, and they're concerned about cuts to their pay and conditions as well, and so they're going to hold this rally today. They'll be holding a rally in Westminster as well whilst the budget is being delivered, in the hope that politicians there will take note.
Is anyone going to look at them? Surely all eyes will be on the budget, won't they?
They do tend. I mean, lots of unions do pick these big announcements to do their strikes because they are, the cameras are trained on Westminster, so they will be looked at. But these will be impacting on people just going about their daily lives today. So just be aware of that if you are going to the tax office, for example.
Julia's texted in. I'm giving you the chance, dear listeners, to be the Chancellor for the day. What would you include in the budget to make your life better? Julie says, I would reduce wages for public servants, including teachers. They should understand what it's like to work in an industry and not get a pay rise for 5 years. They have no idea about the real world. Controversial. I can feel teachers storming out of their classrooms to phone in anger. 08459 455 555 if you want to have your say. You are the Chancellor for the day. What would you do? Charles Little, thank you very much indeed. Paul Scoins, as always, thank you very much. 08459 455 555. Right, it's coming up to 7:15. Let's get the latest travel now with Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And so far this morning, it's slowest on the M25. Surprise, surprise. Anti-clockwise, we've got heavy traffic from the M11 through to the A10, junction 27 to 25. That's approaching the roadworks, which run both directions from junction 25 to 23. That's the A1M turning. Roadwork stretch is looking all right this morning, but remember you have got narrow lanes and a 50-mile-an-hour speed restriction through there. Then anti-clockwise from the M1 to junction 18 at Chorley Woods, looking rather busy on the cameras, and it slows again from junction 17 at Maple Cross to 15 at the M4, looking particularly busy past the M40 junction. But the M40 cameras are showing that it's moving okay once you join the M40. A1M southbound, that's slow from junction 3 at St Albans through to 2 at Welham Green. Around Hoddesdon, the Stansted Road, there's gas main work at Lilliard Close. And the A5 in Fenny Stratford, still roadworks at the Little Chef roundabout there, adding traffic lights to all of the approaches to that roundabout, so it can get quite busy at times. On the train departure boards, looking at those, it's still a good service right across the 3 counties this morning. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Morning, it's nearly 7:16. It's Wednesday, the 20th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Chancellor delivers his budget this afternoon, setting out plans for spending around £2.5 billion from new savings ordered from most government departments. Workers across the 3 counties are set to join thousands of civil service union members in a nationwide strike over pay, pensions and working conditions. In sport, Luton Town beat Stockport 1-0 in the conference last night. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks: sunshine, showers and a top temperature of 5 degrees. Now, a housing association is being criticised because they're questioning whether tenants can afford Sky TV, fags, booze and bingo. But is there anything wrong with that? All of those things are a luxury, aren't they? 08459 455 555.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Did you know you can get in touch with BBC 3 Counties Radio wherever you are?
Via Twitter at BBC3CR.
Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/BBC3CR.
Call us on 08459 455 555. Or text us on 81333 and start your message with 3CR.
Getting Beds, Hearts and Bucks talking. BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Now, it was put to us earlier on in the show from Peter in Walmer Green that nobody plays bingo. Well, Kevin from Luton, do you disagree?
Yeah, well, the grandkids love it. We play it most weekends. They have a great time doing it. We've got an iPad and we've got an app on it. And sometimes my granddad, he does the calling, and we just have a ball of fun, really.
Oh, so hang on, you're taking bingo into the 21st century. You're sitting around at home with your iPads on your laps, and you got your granddad calling out the numbers, and everyone's tapping away furiously, are they?
Well, we've all got the cards, so on the iPad, it does all the numbers.
It does all the numbers. Oh, see that.
But he's old school, and he shouts out 2 little waffs and 603 Squadron and all this kind of stuff.
He shouts out 2 little what?
If you get 88, he shows out 2 fat waffs.
What's a waff?
A waff is a woman that was in the World War II. He's
Oh, okay. Because I always heard it as 2 fat ladies. 88.
No. Yeah, it is, but he does it his own little way, and he says 2 fat waffs.
See, now that sounds like fun. But you don't actually go to a bingo hall and play it?
No, the girls are too young.
Okay.
They're 3, 5, 6.
Hey, do you know what I'm thinking? My boy's 3. He might like a bit of that. It'd be good for him to help learn his numbers as well.
Yeah.
Kevin, listen, thank you for that. Well, we found bingo players. Can we find any more that actually go to the bingo halls? Oh, we've mentioned bingo on this show before, I know, and it was a struggle to get callers on it. But the reason we're talking about this is because a housing association has told their tenants that if you're struggling with the, in inverted commas, bedroom tax or the reduction in your benefits because you've got a spare room, then you should get rid of the luxuries. And the luxuries they listed include Sky TV, cigarettes, alcohol and bingo. Well, there was uproar. The residents were furious. I don't see a problem with that, though. Those things are luxuries, aren't they? Well, let's talk now to Robert Oxley from the Taxpayers Alliance. Morning, Robert.
Good morning.
What do you make of this? It sounds like perfect sense to me.
Well, I think it's the choices and decisions that many people are facing of, at a time when bills are rising, do they cut back on, life's little luxuries? And so I think the Housing Association here posted a serious question. And I don't think that we should be overly prescriptive of what people spend benefits on. But we must not forget that welfare is not an alternative to work, and that if you do want to afford things like Sky TV, the only route to do that is work. You can't remain on welfare on a long term, and so it's the government's job to ensure that there are those opportunities out there to get off welfare so that you can afford those kind of little luxuries. But I think the reaction against the Housing Association has been overblown, has misrepresented their position, given they were asking what many people think is quite a reasonable question.
Yeah, I read this story. It's in quite a few of the papers this morning, and I was left scratching my head as to how anybody could object. Listen, last year I had quite a quiet year work-wise. I didn't work for 6 months, and although everything was fine, and I'm very lucky I've got some savings, I was going through my list of things we could cut back on. Sky was way up on the list.
Without wanting to insult Sky, it's actually the same here. It was one of those things that we cut back on because things were becoming more expensive. So those are the choices that people are making. And many people who are looking for work are making those same decisions. And I think it would be wrong to think that everyone who is claiming welfare is somehow watching Sky TV all day, going down the bingo hall and smoking packs.
And I don't. That's not what we're claiming, and I don't think that's what the housing association accounts claiming either.
That is effectively what people were saying the housing association was implying, which I don't believe is untrue. But there are serious questions that when many families are struggling, many families are struggling to even pay their energy bills. That you do have to look at how you balance those budgets. And the fact is that for the last decade, welfare rose far higher than average wages in the private sector. So the point is that there has been an adjustment to ensure that welfare is not an alternative to work. And part of that will mean that you have to question what you can afford, because ultimately, welfare should be there as a safety net. It should be helping those people who've fallen on tough times. It is not something which is a long-term solution to people's situations. And so, if it's not a long-term solution, then it shouldn't be a long-term solution to paying a Sky bill either.
Peter in Walmer Green called in earlier and said that smoking it couldn't be seen as a luxury because it's an addiction. What do you make of that?
Many people enjoy a cigarette. I think it's one of those things that when people look at household expenditure, when budgets are tight, it's one of those things that they cut back on. And there's certainly a lot of help out there to cut back on what people, if people do want to quit smoking. I think the point is that we shouldn't get overly prescriptive about saying you can and can't spend your benefits on X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, you must accept that if you are in receipt of welfare, if you're in receipt of taxpayers' money, especially if if it's because you're out of work and looking for a job, there are going to be limits on what you can afford, and that the best way to ensure that you can afford the luxuries that you want is to be in work. And I think vitally what's important is that at the same half of that deal is that the government is creating the opportunities and the economic conditions which mean that you can get out of work and that you can get out of welfare, and that when you do go into work that it actually pays a decent wage. And that means reducing the taxes and burdens on the lowest earners, which is something I hope that George Osborne might think about today.
Robert, you are the Chancellor today. You can do one thing. You can change one thing to make your life better. What would you do?
I'm going to cut the basic rate of income tax so that and increase the personal allowance. So I've got two things in one there, but it takes more of the lowest paid out of tax, which means they keep more money in their pocket. So we do get closer to this idea of a living wage, because at the moment, we take almost £1,250 off those earning the minimum wage, and also cutting the basic rate of tax to give all families a break at a time when they are struggling with the rising cost of living.
Robert Oxley from the Taxpayers Alliance. Thank you very much indeed. I don't for a second please think that I'm suggesting that everybody who is in receipt of benefits is watching Sky and smoking and drinking. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that when budgets are tight, you do cut the luxuries. You have to, don't you? Those things I've just listed, they are luxuries, I think. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Is my whole political standpoint changing? I'm agreeing with the Taxpayers Alliance. What on earth's gone wrong with me? 08459 455 555. What do you think? Are those things luxury? If you're struggling, then should you maybe knock them on the head? Seems obvious to me. Diane from Bletchley on the subject of bingo says, I live in a retirement area. The old folk are unable to get out much, but are picked up by a small bus to take them to bingo once a week. It's their only night out. Every day I see people getting taxis, young mothers having their nails done, burger cafes full of young families, people with expensive mobiles, etc. These people don't work and get away with receiving benefits without questions asked. A game of bingo and maybe a cig or pint a week. Why not for their only treat in life? On the subject of the budget, it's the budget day today. You're the Chancellor, dear listener. I'm giving you the chance to change one thing. What would you do to make your life a little bit better? And maybe the life of the country as well. Steve's in Luton. Good morning, Steve.
Hello, morning.
Steve, what would you do?
I'd almost get rid of foreign aid, stop family tax credit, stop fuel allowance, cut into the NHS, because the NHS there's too much money spent on there. We should scrap the NHS, actually, and have private medical insurance. That would save us billions. And then you'd be looking after yourself more. You know, if it's going to cost you, if you're going to hurt yourself, if people go drinking and taking drugs, then they're going to have to pay the price themselves, aren't they, for medical treatment, instead of relying on the NHS and people moaning about it.
But what about people who don't? I'm sure a percentage of people in hospital have hurt themselves by drinking and taking drugs, but I'm sure also there's a huge percentage of people that just get ill, that get cancer.
Well, obviously the thing is, obviously there's going to be some sort of safety net. I mean, everyone's going to have to pay something. I mean, most people, majority of people, as I say, 95%, do work sometime in their life. At the end of the day, if everyone starts paying when they're 16, just a small percentage.
But everyone does.
Yeah, but then if you pay for it yourself, you can look after yourself. People take advantage of the NHS. They drink, they take drugs, they do this, and then when they're 65, they moan because they've got to wait 3 months for a consultant. Now, if they hadn't done all this stuff in their life of, the NHS will pick it up, I've paid into it, this is the mentality you've got in this country.
Well, Steve, I don't think there are many 65-year-olds who drank and took drugs and are moaning.
Yeah, but a lot of people drink probably 7 or 8 pints every day, which is fair enough. But at the end of the day,
where are you getting these figures from?
I'm just averaging. I don't know.
From what?
Anyway, listen, at the end of the day, I believe medical insurance scrap the NHS.
But not everybody, Steve, not everybody, let's follow this point a bit. Not everybody can afford medical insurance. What about those people that couldn't afford it?
That's what I said, there'd be a safe in there, obviously, in every
So
group
there is an NHS then?
No, you'd have a safety. You've got to have some sort of safety somewhere.
Well, if you're scrapping the NHS, then there is an NHS.
You've still got the hospitals and the nurses, but you're paying it in a different format. The funding would come from you and me instead of.
It comes from you and me.
Yeah, but
I pay for the NHS.
Right, well, let's go down the road of 10 people and see how many of them that have been in hospital in the last 10 years have actually spent more on. The NHS spent more money treating them than they've actually paid tax. I mean, if you look at it properly, you'd have to do a test.
Well, Steve, can we send you out to investigate those 10 people? Would you be able to do that for us?
Well, I'll try something, yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the NHS costs thousands of millions every year.
Yeah.
And we can't afford it. So we can't afford to look after ourselves alone, giving money away and giving money to Europe. It's ridiculous. We've got to start cutting, and it's going to work. At the end of the day, if we look after ourselves healthily, we won't have to spend so much money on NHS. Does that not make sense to you?
Ever been in hospital, Steve?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
What can I ask? What for?
There was one time I had a few drinks myself.
Stephen! Stephen, so hang on a second. The people you were talking about are you!
Yeah, I went in once, but other times I've been in 3 other issues.
Stephen, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, cheers.
Ta-ta. So, the people he's talking about who go for in hospital because they've had a few drinks or done whatever are him. Well, it's an idea. What do you think? Get rid of the NHS? We all have private insurance? I suppose it's an idea, isn't it? 08459 455 555. Let's get the travel news now with Adam Glynn.
Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thankfully, no accidents reported across the 3 counties this morning, but traffic is definitely building. The A1M's looking slow southbound from Junction 8 at Hitchin to 7 at Stevenage. The A1001 is looking slow on the southbound side from around Junction 4 of the A1M to Junction 2 of the A1M. Great Cambridge Road on the southbound side through Cheshunt. It's busy on the A10 this morning between College Road and Winston Churchill Way. Then, once you get down toward Enfield, it's pretty heavy between Bullsmore Lane and Southbury Road as well. Meanwhile, in Boreham Wood, we've got queues on the Barnet Way, the A1 on the southbound side between the Holiday Inn and the A41 at Mill Hill. M25 is still slow moving anti-clockwise from the M1 round to the A404 junction 21 to 18, and then from Maple Cross to the M4 junction 17 to 15 is looking busy as well. If you're going to Luton Airport to meet anyone who's flying in today, delays are possible for people arriving into the UK through border control because of industrial action by some border agency staff. On the trains across the 3 counties this morning, things are looking good. We've got no major problems on the departure boards. Adam Glynn, BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Let's get the news and sport now with Catherine Boyle.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 7:30. The headlines: the Chancellor delivers his budget this afternoon and is expected to outline plans for spending around £2.5 billion generated by cuts to most government departments. Workers at the government's tax office in Luton will be among thousands of civil service union members staging a 24-hour strike today in a dispute over pay, pensions and working conditions. And a major building and restoration project about to begin at Bletchley Park thanks to a £7 million grant from the National Lottery.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
MK Dons lost 2-1 at Crewe last night and had defender Anthony Kay sent off in the second half for 2 yellow cards. The defeat damages the side's slim chances of making the playoffs. Manager Carl Robinson criticised his players.
I apologise for the fans who've made the trip down today. I have to hold my hands up and accept the responsibility of us being very, very poor. That was a shambles. I've just told them in there. Some of them might be playing for the football club this next season. Keep up performance like that. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable.
Also in League One, Stevenage lost 2-0 at Bury. Borough goalkeeper Steve Arnold saved from the penalty spot in the first half, but Stevenage couldn't avoid defeat. Boss Gary Smith couldn't hide his frustration.
Continues our long run of Jekyll and Hyde performances, and I would suspect everybody that had seen the game on Saturday would agree that it bore no resemblance to what they'd seen at home against Sheffield United, and that has been the challenge for the coaching staff and the players to find some consistency, and yet again tonight we've not found it.
There was also disappointment for Wycombe Wanderers in League 2. They lost 1-0 at Bradford. Luton Town returned to winning ways, meanwhile, in the conference last night, beating Stockport 1-0 at Kenilworth Road. Skipper Steve McNulty scored the only goal in the first half, and manager John Still was almost impressed.
I'm really pleased with how we're going defensively. We're not making the most of our opportunities. I think we should have done better with our opportunities. I thought we were worthy of more goals. That's the only disappointment now.
In Conference North, Bishop Stortford lost 2-0 at home to Harrogate. In the Southern Premier Division, Chesham beat Bashley 3-1. Bedford lost 3-0 at Leamington, and Hemel Hempstead beat Bedworth 2-1. And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 8 o'clock.
Across Beds, Hearts and Bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Coming up, wind turbines, which would be 125 metres high, could be built in part of Buckinghamshire if plans get the go-ahead today. I'll be speaking to the campaign group and the developers to find out more about the plans. And Matthew Loddy from Kings Langley, well, I think he's bonkers. He's running 18 miles. I nearly called him a muppet. I thought, actually, that's perhaps a little bit rude because he's doing it for charity. But he is. He's running 18 miles this morning just to do an interview with me in Luton. Well, Justin Dealey, our Keep Fit correspondent, he's kind of like the BBC Three Counties Mr Motivator, is following him as he makes his way through Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. We'll find out where he is in about 20 minutes' time. 08459 455 555, or you can text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Put your name on it. We're asking you. Well, I'm giving you the job of Chancellor for the day. What would you include in the budget to make your life better? Daz says, if I was Chancellor for the day, I'd do everything to help pubs by cutting tax, charge foreign lorries road tax, and boost British produce by putting more tax on imports. Well, there we go. Now, wind turbines, almost the height of the London Eye, could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're given the go-ahead at a planning meeting today. Aylesbury Vale District Council will decide whether to give permission for 4 turbines and associated buildings to be erected in Stoke Hammond. Joined now by David Butterworth, Director of Force 9 Energy, who are the wind farm developers for the site. Morning, David.
Good morning, Iain.
David, come to you in a second. I've also got on the line a campaign group against the proposals called Stop Dorcas Line Turbines. It's been set up. Their chairman is Malcolm Newing, who joins me now. Good morning, Malcolm.
Good morning, Iain.
Malcolm, what's being proposed?
Well, basically, as you've just described it, there are 4 wind turbines, 125 metres high, that have been proposed in some farmers' fields that sit in the middle of 6 local communities.
And what's your problem with that?
Well, the problem is we don't have a problem with green energy, and we don't really have a problem with wind turbines either. Our problem is that the site's inappropriate. Whether you're talking to Ed Davey, the Secretary of State for Energy, or whether you're talking to John Hayes, the Minister for Energy, they are both of exactly the same opinion that when wind energy is brought to a locality, it has to be brought to one that's appropriate.
Why is your area not appropriate?
Well, there's a whole range of issues. The council, for example, has determined that the impact on the landscape, the historic sort of rural Buckinghamshire landscape that exists in this particular area, is one reason for objecting, and they've also suggested that the residential amenity of the nearby houses is another reason for
What does that mean, the residential amenity? I don't understand.
Well, basically, what that means is that I guess if you look at wind turbines, they were originally planned, bearing in mind the size, to have been built at sea or perhaps up a mountain or in a very wide open space. Now they're starting to be built very, very close to people's houses.
They've changed the design, though, haven't they? So.
Well, whether they've changed the design or not, they haven't changed the height. In fact, that's not quite true. They have changed the height. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So your main concern then is just what it looks like.
No, not at all. What it looked like.
I'm confused. I'm confused. Could you summarise what your problem with it is? It does sound like at the moment, and maybe you can clarify this. It does sound a little bit like NIMBYism.
That's such a tired and lazy accusation.
Well, prove otherwise, Malcolm.
If you want me to answer the question, let me answer the question.
Please do, but prove otherwise, because that's what it sounds like.
It's an incredibly tired and lazy accusation, which trivialises the important issues.
But Malcolm, you've not told me what the important issues are. That's why it sounds like NIMBYism.
Right. The important issues, if you just give me 5 minutes to actually explain
you're not going to get 5 minutes, no, but go on, try and explain it.
There's a whole stack of issues.
Well, tell me what they are, Malcolm, please.
The second one is cultural heritage, the fact that these things will actually appear up behind the churches that have been in this site for the last 200 or 300 years. We've talked about residential amenity. The fact
I don't know what you mean by residential amenity.
Unpleasant places to live.
Malcolm, I don't know what you mean. Malcolm, I don't know what you mean by residential amenity. You're not being clear.
It to you.
Well, explain it again, because I'm obviously being very stupid this morning.
So close to people's houses that they're overpowering and overbearing, making those places unpleasant places to live.
How are they making them unpleasant?
Because they're huge, they're vast.
So it's what they look like.
Over the places, they've got huge moving parts.
So it's what they look like.
What they look like is one part of it. The other part of it, of course, is what they do. They create noise. The noise in this particular site, we've had our own consultants look at, and they've concluded that they don't even meet the standard that the governments have set, the SU standard that the governments have set.
Okay, Malcolm, thank you for that. Stay there. Let's speak to David. David, they're in the wrong place, they're noisy, and they're an eyesore.
They're in the right place. For people who, some of your listeners might want to know where Dorcas Lane is actually. If you're driving up to Milton Keynes along the A4146 bypass, there's a new bypass there which runs parallel to the West Coast main line. We're talking about a piece of land just to the west of that, which is about 4 miles south of Milton Keynes. It's a good location for a wind farm for several reasons. One is the wind speed there is very good for a wind farm. You know, we've got an open vale with winds coming across it. We can generate a good amount of renewable electricity. The site is in the southeast of England. That's where electricity is needed. That's where the demand for electricity is. If we continue to build wind farms in Scotland or Cornwall or Wales, then we've got to build transmission lines across miles and miles of countryside to bring the power to where it's needed. So being in the southeast of England, close to population, is a good place to build a wind farm. There's also an existing electricity network in the area, which means that we don't have to build new power lines. We've got the distribution line in place. There's a good road network in the area, so we can get the components in without building new roads. We can use the A5. We can use that new bypass that was built recently.
But Malcolm, David, according to Malcolm, they're noisy and they're an eyesore, and they are huge.
Yeah. Well, it's true. The council have considered lots and lots of reasons about this wind farm. Malcolm's mentioned some of them. In actual fact, as Malcolm said, the council have come down to one conclusion. The council officers come down to one conclusion, that people will be able to see them. There's an issue with landscape and visual and with residential amenity. All the other things, noise, ecology...
How noisy are they?
If me and you were standing here now, if we were having this interview underneath one of the wind turbines, we wouldn't need to raise our voice at all.
What if we were 100 feet away? Because I've heard that they're noisier if you get further away from them.
Yeah, I mean...
Is that true?
By the closest houses to these wind turbines...
Is that true? They're noisier if you're a little bit further away from them than if you're directly under them?
No.
That's not true? Okay.
No.
So will the houses be able to hear them?
When you're the closest houses are about 800 metres away.
Yeah.
If you're in the garden, under some conditions, if the wind is blowing in the right direction, you might just about hear a very, very faint sound. But that's about all.
Malcolm, a very, very faint sound. That doesn't sound too bad, does it?
I'd just like to make one point here, Ian, that this site is in the lowest 2% in the country for wind speed. So as far as this being a great site with raging winds, that's a complete joke.
David, how can you respond to that?
That's absolutely not true. We've been measuring the site. We've been measuring the site for over a year. We've been measuring the wind speeds, and in fact, we've seen the figures that Malcolm and his colleagues have produced. And quite frankly, they've got their sums wrong. They've assumed a wind speed at a height of 45 metres. These turbines are going to be 125 metres high. The wind is much higher at 125 metres, and the generation from the turbines will be that much greater.
Smoke and mirrors, Ian. We've used the national site that's provided by DEC, and we have measured it at 45 metres because that's all that's available to anybody. But the whole of the sites across the whole of the country are measured at 45 metres. Therefore, you could gross them all up, and therefore the comparison would be exactly the same. Anyway, you asked me about noise. The issue with noise is that there's increasing evidence of low-frequency noise being a problem with wind turbines. Dr. Chris Hanning of the BMA has explained quite clearly, and he's an expert in this, that noise leads to sleep deprivation, and sleep deprivation leads to health issues. The real issue here is the wind turbine industry doesn't understand themselves what type of site causes a problem.
But if you can't hear the noise, Malcolm, that's not going to keep you awake, is it?
No, it doesn't keep you awake, you're absolutely right. But when you wake up and then you do hear the noise, you can't get back to sleep. That's what sleep deprivation is. And sleep deprivation causes far more problems of ill health.
But David's saying you won't hear a noise.
Well, David's incorrect. I've just quoted you. Dr. Chris Hanning of the BMA tells you precisely wind turbines.
David, Dr. Chris Hanning of the. Let's just David response. We're running out of time, Malcolm. In a second, I'll let you make your point. I promise.
Okay,
David, the doctor from the BMA disagrees with what you're saying.
Wind turbine opponents often wield out people who will support a particular point of view. It's not hard to find one person who's against wind farms who will support some.
But it doesn't. That doesn't. If a doctor from the BMA is saying that, he's not just going to make stuff up because he's against wind turbines, is he? He must have some evidence.
The vast majority of scientists and doctors would say something different. The vast majority of doctors.
Okay, right, we can have a little bit of he-said, she-said. Malcolm, you wanted to make one more point?
There's an important point you might ask Mr. Butler's about. I mean, he's telling us that there won't be any problems with noise on this site, and of course, none of us will know until the damn things are built. But actually, one of the only two operational sites that Force 9 have been involved with in the UK, Blangwen, or they call it now Out Withis, has got ongoing noise problems, and he told the people there exactly the same story.
Well, David, you can respond to that. Is that true?
There are noise has been an issue without doubt at some turbines in the country. There can be mechanical problems, there can be issues, but those can be solved.
Have they been solved in the location that Malcolm's referring to?
It's not a project that we are currently involved with. It's a project that's operated by another wind farm company.
That's because they've sold it on, and which is the other thing that happens. Once Force 9 have got their deal on this particular site, the very strong likelihood is, having got their planning permission, they'll sell it on, and that's exactly what they did to Statcraft down in Wales.
That doesn't sound great, does it, David? If there is a problem with noise, and then you just sell it on, and the next company might not be so.
It's not true that we're selling the project on. We're developing this project in partnership with EDF Energy. They've been involved with it from the beginning. They will be the owner of the wind farm. They'll be the operator of the wind farm. There's no intention at all to sell this project.
But they did sell the other one on, so...
OK, listen, chaps, we're going to end it there. Thank you very much. Excellent stuff. You heard, last voice you heard there was Malcolm Ewing, who's from the Stop Dorcas Lane Turbines campaign group. And before that, you heard David Butterworth, director of Force 9 Energy, who are the wind farm developers for this site. Well, what do you think? 08459 455 555. It took a while to get Malcolm's argument, and I hope, Malcolm, you feel that I gave you a fair crack of the whip. I felt it was a little bit... It did sound like NIMBYism at the start, and you can say that's a lazy, tired argument. But if that's what it sounds like, then that's what it sounds like. It took more shape, I think, Malcolm's argument towards the end of that piece. Who do you agree with, Malcolm or David? 08459 455 555. Would you have wind turbines? I genuinely don't think, if they built wind turbines near me, I don't think I would object. I don't think I would. I think, and let's put my cards on the table, I think they look lovely, and I think it's an important thing that they're doing. But what do you think? 08459 455 555. There were some holes in David's argument, weren't there? That they're quiet, but, well, actually, maybe there are some technical problems that create noise. Right, speak to you after the latest travel with Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1 southbound, there's a lane closed off. An accident at junction 11 for Dunstable means that traffic's looking very slow on that southbound carriageway. Busy already this morning through Cheshunt. The A10 is looking slow from College Road through to Winston Churchill Way. On the A1 around Boreham Wood, we've got queues between the Holiday Inn and the A41 at Mill Hill. For anyone using the M25, clockwise seems to be moving okay, but anti-clockwise, heavy traffic from the M1 at junction 21 through to the A404 at junction 18, and then again from 17 at Maple Cross to 15 at the M4, looking particularly busy at the M40 junction. On the trains, it's still a good service right across the three counties, whether you're heading to London or going elsewhere. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Morning, it's 7:46. It's Wednesday the 20th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Chancellor delivers his budget this afternoon and is expected to outline plans for spending around £2.5 billion generated by cuts to most government departments. Workers at the government's tax office in Luton will be among thousands of civil service union members staging a 24-hour strike today in a dispute over pay, pensions and working conditions. In sport, England cricketer James Anderson says he will be fit and raring to go for tomorrow's final test against New Zealand. Well, let's speak to you after this, but before that, let's get the weather with Lara Lewington.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Well, a cloudy start to the day and quite a few showers still to come. But having said that, throughout the afternoon we're going to start to see a few sunny intervals, so it's not all doom and gloom. But those temperatures really aren't up to much. A high of just 5 degrees Celsius. And by tonight, although the wet weather should have cleared away, we are going to be seeing a cold night with a widespread ground frost, particularly across the Chilterns and other rural areas. Those temperatures down to just -3 degrees, so very chilly for this time of year. And tomorrow, a cold and frosty start to the day. There will be some brightness, but by later on it'll be becoming increasingly cloudy and pretty windy.
Thank you very much. Ay caramba.
Tackling your consumer problems.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
My son took it back to the garage. The mechanic says, yeah, I know what it is. So they took it in, done what they had to do, and the car was still the same, still doing the same thing.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
The long and short of it is, he agreed that he would replace the car.
If you have a consumer problem,
we can do the same for you.
I'd like to thank you and your team for everything you've done. We wouldn't have got where we got without you.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to call that a result. Any other problems, you know where I am, Stuart.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
I just need to clarify one thing. I have been speaking about car trouble the last couple of days, but if you are a car dealership in Beds, Hearts or Bucks and I come in today to part exchange a car, it's not the car I've been talking about that's broken down 3 times over the last 2 days. Okay, so if you run a car dealership and you see me pop in wanting to part exchange, it's not the car that I've been banging on about the last couple of days. It's a completely different car, of course. Idiots. Oh, dear. Now, work to create a new visitor centre and to restore some of the code-breaking huts at Bletchley Park is about to begin. The restoration work was made possible thanks to over £7 million of Heritage Lottery money. It's due to be completed by June 2014 to coincide with the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Well, our reporter, Tony Fisher, and World War II veteran, has been for a behind-the-scenes look and started by talking to the chief executive of the park, Iain Standen.
Iain, we're standing in Hut 6, used during the war for code breaking. We're standing outside this room, which we can't actually go into because basically it's got no floor. The floor's collapsed. Looks like the part of the roof is collapsing. There's wires dangling down from it. The radiator's at an angle. The window's at an angle. How are you going to set about going back to restoring it to its original glory, if that's the right word?
Well, our architects and our project managers will look at how we can coordinate all this, but basically we'll be left in many cases with just the frameworks of the building, with all the panelling taken out and replaced. Where it's fit for purpose, it can go back in. Where it's not, it'll be replaced by either like-for-like material, or where, for things like asbestos, we can't put asbestos back in, we'll replace them with appropriate replacements.
So how do you recreate what was sort of going on here? Are you going to put desks in and that sort of thing, or...?
A combination of techniques is what's called light touch interpretation. So perhaps one room like this might well be dressed with desks and what have you to look like it was during the war, perhaps with projection on the wall showing the images of a chap or what have you working here. Another room, perhaps across the corridor here, might just have audio-visual telling the story. Others might just be dressed, just be left as they were. So it gives people a sort of feel as they walk through to get an idea of the atmosphere in here. So a bit of sound, just evoking perhaps typewriters, telephones going off, that sort of thing.
Kennedy O'Callaghan, architect.
Kennedy, we've moved into Block C, which was the card indexing block. This is also in a very dilapidated state. There's pigeon poo everywhere, roofs are falling in, windows are in a state, cobwebs everywhere, a bit like the huts. This is the block that's going to be turned into the visitor centre. I mean, it's hard to see that in its present state, but this is going to be the first thing that people see when they come into the centre, isn't it?
Yes. And our approach to this building is to restore it to its wartime layout and character. And the idea being that when you enter into Block C, you step back in time and you begin to see what Bletchley Park was like during the war. We have wartime plans of the building, and we can remove partitions which were put in when it was used as a training college by GCHQ, and we know the original layout of the building and will revert to that.
My name's Steve Prowse. I'm a project manager with Appleyards.
Steve, we're standing in the middle of Bletchley Park. We're outside. We've gone through Block C and the huts. We're by the fountain, by the lake. How is this whole project going to change the whole face of Bletchley Park?
The aim is that when the visitor arrives, the cars are all, parked out of the way, and the visitor experience starts as soon as they enter into Block C.
As I said to Ken, in Block C, can it all be done by next year, June 2014? Yeah. Seems quite a stretch.
Well, as project manager, it's my
your job.
It's my plan, and in a way, the Bletchley atmosphere does actually rub off on the project team. Actually, because those guys and girls, they were working to tremendous, time constraints. And I've said to the project team, if they could do it with the materials that they had, then there's no excuse for us as a team to be able to deliver that.
That's our reporter Tony Fisher looking at the updates and the money that's going to be spent at Bletchley Park. Now, marathon runner Matthew Loddy is running from his home in Kings Langley all the way to our studios in Luton. He better get here before 9, otherwise, well, he's had a wasted journey. We're going to send a welcoming committee out there. It's going to be Ollie, the work experience. He can make a big noise, I'm sure. 18 miles is the distance. We've given him 2.5 hours to complete the challenge. He set off around about 6:20. He's doing it to raise the profile of a charity challenge. He's running 30 marathons in 30 days to raise money for the excellent Teenage Cancer Trust. Well, our BBC Three Counties' very own Mr. Motivator, Justin Dealey, has been following him in a car. An hour ago, they were in Apsley. Justin, what's the latest?
Ian, can I be completely honest with you?
Yes.
We've lost him.
What?
Yes, we've lost him.
You've lost our marathon, man.
We've lost him. He's
Dealey!
I know.
All you got to do is follow a bloke who's running. How many cigarette breaks did you have?
Too many, far too many. So, listener appeal right now. We spoke to Matthew this morning, just after 6:15. He left at 6:25. That was in Kings Langley. We then spoke to him at 6:45 in Apsley. We believe the route that he was taking was going through Hemel Hempstead Town Centre, up the Hemel Hempstead Road, down the Redbourne Road, into Harpenden, and then into Luton. We believe he should be coming past us any minute now, to be fair. We're currently on the Redbourne Road. But if you see Matthew, can you give us a quick call right now, because we've lost him. 08459 455 555. But I think he's playing a trick. Because earlier on he said to me 2.5 hours it would take me. That's what I got it down for.
Yeah.
He said a few weeks ago it would have taken me 1 hour and 30.
Oh, is he teasing us?
I think he might be. I think he's playing a trick on us this morning, because when he said that to me, I thought, oh yeah, there. He said, my knees have been playing me up, but a few weeks ago, an hour and a half, slightly longer today. So, if anybody's seen Matthew, let us know. 100 marathons in 100 days last year. He kicks off again this weekend in Edinburgh. 30 marathons in 30 days. He will be with you, I guarantee you, by 9. Whether we can find him before 9 is another matter, Ian.
Have you... Have you ever lost a guest before?
Never lost a guest before. And the funny thing is, Matthew's wife is also out with us today in the in the Teenage Cancer Trust wagon.
Yes.
With all the details how you can donate for this fantastic cause and the new marathon challenge. Karen now is driving around trying to find him as well.
Wow.
So we will find him. I think he should be around here. Okay. We believe the route again going through Harpenden, up the Luton Road, past Luton Hoo, down London Road, into our studios in Hastings Street in Luton. He will be there, Ian. Don't panic.
Can you describe what he looks like and what he's wearing so our listeners can keep an eye out?
He's clearly very, very fit. To do 30 marathons in 30 days, you've got to be very fit. He's probably about 6 foot, I would say. Quite shaggy hair. He's wearing some very cool glasses, and he's wearing a fluorescent jacket, clearly wearing trainers as well. If you can spot our marathon man, Matthew, let us know.
The import and the weight that you gave to that,
yes.
Clearly wearing trainers as well. Oh, hang on a second. Dave?
Yeah?
Dave, have you seen him?
No, I ain't seen him, but he's probably using the Nicky line to cut off about 2 miles.
He's doing what?
Yeah.
He might be using the Nicky line.
What's the Nicky line, Justin?
The Nicky line is, I believe, it's an old railway line which can cut off sometime. Now, if he's doing that, that's a very good point from Dave. We obviously can't go down the Nicky line in this car, can we?
Is it, Dave? Would that count as cheating? Is he trying to cut a bit of the distance off?
You ought to see that road, and bloody lunatics go down there.
Do you go down there, Dave?
Yeah, I live on it.
There we go. Exactly. I think you've answered your own point. Well, he could be on the Nicky line, Justin.
He could well be. Could well be. We will find him, though, Ian. We will find him. 18 miles. Who else? Come on. Who else runs 18 miles to do an interview? There might be a few problems along the way, but we will get him there to you before 9, I guarantee.
Can I say, if you do not find our guest,
yes.
you're fired. It's literally as simple as that, Dealey.
It's not looking good, is it?
No, not looking good. Speak to you later on.
Thanks, Ian.
If you want to make a donation to... if you want to make a donation, you can do. You can text the word RUN30 to 70300. That makes a £3 donation. Teenage Cancer Trust receives 100% of every text donation. The donation costs £3 plus one standard text message. Right, you are the Chancellor this morning. What would you do to the budget to make your life a bit better or make the life of the country better? Lots of you on Facebook have been commenting on this, and some of you have been commenting on my haircut on Facebook. Leave it out, all right? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Dudley Rose. They all begin with D, these names. Is there something in that? Dudley Rose says, put a big increase on duty on high-strength cider and lager. David Savage. MPs should freeze their pay and benefits. Duty should be cut on fuel to keep the country moving. David Bryder says, reduce fuel prices. They've started getting silly again. They have, haven't they? The last 10 days, they've just started sneaking up. 140 in some places for a bit of unleaded. Incredible. What would you do? You're the Chancellor for the day. 08459 455 555. And in a slightly connected thing, there's a housing association who said, listen, if you're struggling because of this, in inverted commas, bedroom tax, right, get rid of your luxuries. Get rid of your Sky TV, your fags, your booze and your bingo. There's been uproar at this. Tenants have gone feral arguing about this, but I don't see what the problem is. If you're struggling to make ends meet, on benefits or otherwise, get rid of the luxuries. That includes the Sky, the cigarettes and the booze. We'll discuss more after the travel with Adam.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Cheers, Ian. Southbound M1's got a lane closed. It's looking slow because of an accident at junction 11 Dunstable, and it's lane 1, the inside lane, that's shut off. We're hearing reports that through Finmere, the A4421 has been blocked. An accident with a tractor involved between the A421 in Finmere and Thompson Drive in Bicester. But we are waiting for further updates on that. So if anyone's in the area and can see what's going on, do give us a call, 08459 455 555. Southbound A1 is queuing at the Black Cat roundabout. It's also queuing once you get into London through Boreham Wood, from the Holiday Inn down to the A41 at Mill Hill. The A10 through Cheshunt's looking slow between College Road and Winston Churchill Way, and then through Enfield it's heavy between Bullsmore Lane and Southbury Road. All the trains are looking good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. We'll talk more about the budget. And also, your satellite TV, your booze, your fags, your bingo, they are luxuries, aren't they? You can't argue that they're an entitlement. Or can you? We'll speak more after the news.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Catherine Boyle. The headlines count down to this year's budget, turbine plans for Buckinghamshire, and work begins at Bletchley Park.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The Chancellor, George Osborne, delivers his budget this afternoon. It's thought he'll reveal forecasts for another fall in growth, and many experts believe he'll have to borrow more. Here's our political editor, Nick Robinson.
Extremely bracing. That's how one senior minister describes the independent economic forecast which the Chancellor will have to read out in the budget today. Having announced a further squeeze on day-to-day spending, he'll now be able to tell us how he'll spend the money saved in order to live up to his promise to help people who he says want to work hard and get on, own their own home and save for their retirement. This budget, unlike last year's, has not been comprehensively leaked, but it looks likely that the Chancellor will try once again to boost house building, to lay out plans to extend the tax-free personal allowance and to freeze planned fuel duty rises.
Meanwhile, members of the UK's largest civil service union, the PCS, are staging a 24-hour strike in a dispute over pay, pensions and working conditions. Government departments, driving test centres, museums and job centres are among the workplaces expected to be hit, and a rally will be held at Westminster while George Osborne delivers the budget. In other news, a 40-year-old man will appear before Luton magistrates later, charged with sexually assaulting an 80-year-old woman in Houghton Regis. Darren Emerson from Parkside Drive in Houghton Regis is accused of attacking the pensioner in the early hours of Monday morning. Wind turbines almost as high as the London Eye could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're given the go-ahead at a planning meeting later. Aylesbury Vale District Council will decide whether to give permission for 4 turbines to be built at Stoke Hammond, as Lorna Hankin reports.
The developers, Force 9 Energy, submitted their plans to erect the turbines and associated buildings next to Dorcas Lane back in December 2011. They say it would generate enough energy to power nearly 5,000 homes, but residents say they're too tall, very near to homes, and that the wind farms are an unreliable source of energy. A decision is expected to be made today at the meeting, which starts at 1 o'clock.
A major building and restoration project about to begin at Bletchley Park. The National Lottery is covering the £7 million cost of the work, which is timed to finish to coincide with the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings in June 2014. The Codebreakers huts will be restored and Block C will become a visitors centre, as architect Kennedy O'Callaghan explains.
Our approach to this building is to restore it to its wartime layout and character. And the idea being that when you enter into Block C, you step back in time and you begin to see what Bletchley Park was like during the war.
In sport, Luton Town beat Stockport 1-0 in the conference last night, with skipper Steve McNulty scoring that goal. The weather, sunshine, showers and a top temperature of 5 degrees Celsius, that's 41 Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
I've got a nasal problem. It's a medical condition. I should probably get a blue badge for this. Anyway, exciting update, Catherine. Richard has just texted in saying he's driven past our runner, Matthew Loddy, going into Harpenden, so he's alive and well.
Good grief. Is Justin behind him, or...?
Probably quite some way behind him, I'd imagine, having a Benson and Hedges, but never mind. Thank you, Catherine. Yes, we've got a gentleman running 18 miles to come to the studio to be interviewed. We need to know roughly what time he's coming in so I can send out the welcome party. Work experience, Ollie. If you spot him, Justin Dealey has genuinely lost him. He's supposed to be out with him, following him in a car. I suspect he stopped for one too many tab breaks. If you spot him, could you give us a call? 08459 455 555. Give him a toot of your horn as well. Not to scare him, just to kind of, cheer him on. He's doing it to raise awareness for his charity challenge, 30 marathons in 30 days. In other news, Budget Day. Happy Budget Day, everybody. Did you get your cards out in time? Did you get a present for Mum? Well, the Chancellor will lay out his economic plans for the next year. It comes as the union, the PCS, stages a 24-hour strike in a dispute over pay, pensions and working conditions. We'll find out why they're protesting next. And wind turbines, an eyesore or a good way of generating money? 4 of them, almost the height of the London Eye, could be built in part of Buckinghamshire. We'll be finding out why people living nearby don't want them there. And also, after a housing association tells its residents, listen, if you're struggling with the bedroom tax, get rid of your satellite TV, stop drinking, stop smoking and stop going to the bingo. They've got a point, haven't they? All of those things are luxuries. Is there anybody listening who's outraged by a housing association suggesting people do that? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333, start your text 3CR, or, look, all of the lines are free at the moment, you can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Later on today, the Chancellor, George Osborne, will deliver his fourth budget. When did we start getting 2 budgets a year? Someone mentioned this on Facebook, and they've got a point. And it used to be on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Tuesdays or Thursdays, one of the two, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When did that all change? And it's the only time a Member of Parliament is allowed a boozy drink in the kind of the main chambers. I think they don't do it so much now, but you always used to in the 80s and maybe some of the 90s. They'd have a little a shot of scotch by them. Anyway, he's doing it against the backdrop of one of the worst economic climates in a century. To coincide with today's budget, there's a strike by the Public Services Union. Government offices across Beds, Herts and Bucks are being affected. And one of the places affected is the tax office in George Street in Luton. Well, Jeff Webb from the Revenue and Customs part of the union is there now. Morning, Jeff.
Morning. Happy Budget Day to you as well.
Happy Budget Day to you, Jeff. I hope you got your cards and your flowers out to your loved ones.
It's been a wonderful morning so far. A little on the chilly side as we've been outside, but apart from that, a glorious day.
Why are you on strike today, Jeff?
Because they're cutting our wages, because they're tearing up our pensions agreements, because they're getting rid of staff, and not only is the future of the staff and their families and anybody who depends on them. I think we all know a civil servant, we've all got one in the family, I think most people have, and the economic effect of that, but it's the effect on the public as well, and we've seen a terrible deterioration in the service that we can offer the public in recent years, and there's no good reason for it.
Let me play devil's advocate, Jeff. Everybody is having to make cuts in private business, in the public sector. Everybody is making cuts, losing jobs, losing hours, losing pay. Why should you be any different?
Well, we're not any different, what we say is that there's a different way forward for the economy. I mean, the reason that people are losing jobs, ordinary people are losing money, and not the rich, but just ordinary people are losing money, is because of the disastrous effect of the government's economic policy. And we see a different way forward in PCS. We see a future in reinvestment. We see a future in decent public services. We see a future in which people can turn up to the tax office and be seen by someone. You realise, of course, that all 281 public counters tax offices will be closed over the next couple of years if government plans go ahead. We don't want to see that. We want to see people in work. We want to see people receiving public services, and we want to see an economy that hangs together and there's a future. And at the moment, we don't see any future in what the government is doing at all.
With other people struggling and to make ends meet and losing jobs, do you think you'll have much public support today, Jeff?
Well, I hope so. We certainly meet people when we're on the picket line outside the offices who we feel understand what we're doing and support us. But we're happy to talk to anybody about this, and hopefully they'll realise that really our struggle and fight is theirs as well. We don't want to have anything better than anybody else. We want everybody to have a fine economic future and a life, not be dragged down to a level where they can't afford to live and got no future.
The problem is, Jeff, I would guess that there is no money. There isn't the money. What would you suggest they do instead?
I suggest they invest in the country. I mean, I was listening to a debate on the radio this morning about investing more into the economics of this country and building, rather like we did, I know this will be before both our times, after the Second World War. The economy was built up back then by Keynesian economics, shrewd investment, and a sense that there was a future. What I'm sensing at the moment is that the government doesn't really think there is a future. They're just grabbing the last few baubles for the rich people, privatising everything. Jeff's
been silenced. Well, there you go. MI5, or is it MI6, have got to Jeff Webb and silenced him. They don't believe in free speech. We'll try and get Jeff back, because I think he was making an interesting point. Well, what do you think? Do you have support for these people who are going on strike? public services on strike. Everybody's struggling at the moment, aren't they? Everybody's in a tight financial situation. Well, do you have support for them, or are you at home because you've lost your job or you're working flexi time going, well, yeah, and get with the programme, girlfriend. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Just a quick update on our runner, Matthew. He's been spotted. Andrea has spotted Matthew running past the Fox Pub in Harpenden. Justin, get to the Fox Pub in Harpenden as quickly as you can, for goodness sakes. He's down that, although he's probably several miles past that now, the speed he's going. Why would you, I know he's doing it for charity. I have been asked so many times, you should do the London Marathon. No, I'll write a cheque. How much do you want? What do you want, a cheque? Yeah, I'll do that. Reg from St Albans has called in on the union strikes. Morning, Reg. Have you got sympathy for these strikers today?
No, I think it's all wrong.
Why is that?
Well, we're all having to cut our throats to try and live a bit like, and, I don't know why they should be going on strike. My brother-in-law's lost his job. He's worked for a firm for about 14, 15 years. I think it's just all wrong all the way around there.
Do you not think though that with these people in the public sector that if they've been promised things like they've been promised wages and they've been promised pensions, to then have those things taken away or cut severely, is that fair? To have your pension cut severely?
Well, everyone else has got to take pay cuts, haven't they? Apart from MPs, And I think myself, they should take a pay cut as well.
Well, Rach, stay there, because we've got Jeff Webb back. Jeff, we were just speaking to from the Revenue and Customs, part of that union. Jeff, Reg is on the line saying, tough luck. Jeff? We've lost Jeff again. I think we'll give up.
He don't want to talk to me, does he?
I don't think that's the case, but you may have a point. So you just think, listen, come on, everybody's having to suck it up and see, just get on with it.
Yeah, well, it's right, Let's say you've got old age pensioners in this country, they're having to suffer. You've got children having to suffer, and I think because they work for the government, they should have everything.
Reg, listen, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. Should we have a quick look at the front pages of the newspapers? Let's do that, shall we? The Independent's got a fantastic picture. Fantastic photograph. Putting a brave face on it. Chancellor set to raise tax threshold to £10,000 1 year early. And it's a picture of lots of people coming out of an underground station. I can't quite work out what underground station it is. All wearing the same grey suits, same blue tie, and wearing George Osborne masks. There was about 15 people there wearing George Osborne masks. It's freaky. Anti-hunger campaigners in Westminster on the eve of George Osborne's fourth budget. And academic savage Gove's conveyor belt curriculum. Michael Gove's proposed new national curriculum will severely damage education standards by insisting that children learn endless lists of spelling, facts and rules, experts warned today. The Times, there's Joss Stone. Joss Stone faces men who wanted to kill her. Joss Stone leaves Exeter Crown Court. She's the pop singer who a couple of gentlemen wanted to chop her head off, I think, after giving evidence in the trial of two men alleged to have plotted to kidnap her. The Times, top police protected celebrity suspects. Hundreds of police intelligence files on suspected sex assaults and criminal activity by celebrities, politicians and VIPs were kept so secret that detectives investigating alleged offences could not see them. Information on prominent suspects was marked restricted or secret and effectively hidden in police databases. Well, I never. The Guardian. Cyprus vote threatens new euro turmoil. MPs throw out plan to take savings. RAF sends out €1 million to British forces. The Cypriot Parliament last night threw out a controversial plan to skim €5.8 billion from savers' bank accounts. Malala goes back to school. Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani 15-year-old shot by the Taliban in October for campaigning for... Hey, she just wanted women to read. They shot her. Yeah, nice one, guys. On her way to the Edgbaston High School for girls in Birmingham. And budget boosts on tax rates amid grim forecast. The Daily Telegraph. PM slur on stay-at-home mothers. David Cameron was accused of a slur on stay-at-home mothers yesterday after Downing Street suggested that they will be excluded from receiving childcare support because they do not want to work hard and get on. And there's the Pope. There's a brilliant picture of the Pope on the front of the Telegraph. It looks... I think he's about to kiss a baby. It looks like he's examining a child's throat to see whether he needs some form of surgery or something. That's a cracking picture. The Daily Express. Oh, look! It's Kate Middleton at the Buckinghamshire charity yesterday that we talked about, who do a lot of work for bereaved parents. And they had their little visit yesterday. And statins, a new health alert. Daily pill can cause kidney damage. A wonder drug taken daily by millions of Britons to control cholesterol could dramatically increase the risk of kidney damage. The Daily Mail, an insult to stay-at-home mothers. And Roach, Bill Roach, a.k.a. What's his name? Ken Barlow. Sorry for my slur on abuse victims. He's done a hoddle. Ken Barlow's done a hoddle and said that sexual abuse victims, they've only got themselves to blame. They must have done something naughty in a past life. And The Sun, bittersweet, 6p joy on beer, not much else to cheer. George Osborne will today say cheers to Britain and scrap next month's 6p rise on a pint of beer. You, dear listener, are the Chancellor today. What would you do in the budget to make your life a little bit better? 08459 455 555 815. Let's get the travel news, shall we, with Adam?
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And I'm starting with a quick look at the trains. So far this morning, so good really. We've got no real major problems out there on the rails through the three counties. We've had one cancellation. It's the 8:47 from Milton Keynes to London Euston. I'm afraid that won't be running this morning, I believe because of a member of the train crew being unavailable. Everything else on the departure board's looking good, with no more than about 2 or 3 minutes of delays anywhere. The southbound M1, now that's got a lane closed. Slow traffic because of an accident at junction 11 Dunstable, and it's the inside lane of the motorway that's closed off. In Finmere, we have reports that the A4421 is blocked by an accident with a tractor involved between the A421 at Finmere and Thompson Drive in Bicester, though we haven't had any further confirmation on that, so if anyone's in the area, do give us a call if it's safe to do so, 08459 455 555. Slow this morning on the southbound A41 through Hemel Hempstead, between the A414 and the M25 at junction 20. If you're joining the motorway anti-clockwise, it's heavy from the M1 through to Chorleywood, junction 21 to 18, then again from Maple Cross to the M4, junction 17 to 15. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Fun times, Adam. Thanks very much. Morning, it's 8:16. It's Wednesday the 20th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Chancellor, George Osborne, delivers his budget this afternoon. It's thought he'll reveal forecasts for another fall in growth, and many experts believe he'll have to borrow more. Almost 250,000 civil servants are expected to take strike action today as the PCS union protests over pay, pensions and working conditions. In sport, the England cricketer James Anderson has declared himself fit to face New Zealand in the final test of the series in Auckland. Good for him. The weather today for Beds, Hearts and Bucks: sunshine, showers and a top temperature of 5 degrees. Coming up, wind turbines almost the height of the London Eye could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're given the thumbs up at a planning meeting today. Before 8:30, we'll get more of your views on this. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
There's 2 days of live sport this weekend on Three Counties Sports. On Saturday from 2, we focus on League One and the Conference.
Effort from Lowe, what a goal! What a goal from Ryan Lowe!
With live commentary on MK Dons away to Colchester and Luton versus Tamworth.
Breaks the deadlock at last at Kenilworth Road. Past Sam Ashton into the corner of the net.
Plus updates on Burton against Wickham and Bedford Blues at home to Doncaster. Three Counties Sports, Saturday from 2, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Boom! Jonathan Vernon-Smith is here, but hold your horses, sir. Sorry to point, that's rude. I don't know why pointing is considered rude. I'm indicating you, pointing at you.
Yeah, I don't find it rude.
No, OK, well, stop. Shut up.
That is a bit rude.
Was that rude? Okay, well, please be quiet. We are. Shut up. We've got a young gentleman who's running 18 miles to be on this show today.
Here.
I know the things we make people do.
Just lost him. Has you found him again?
Well, I don't know. Dealey, have you found him?
Yes, I found him.
For goodness sakes. What? Where is he?
Well, we're now outside Luton Hoo. I cannot believe how quickly Matthew is travelling this morning. 18 miles to get to you for this interview.
Yeah.
15 miles in 1 hour and 47 minutes. He's with me right now. Matthew, how fast are you going? And also, are you getting a lot of support along the way from our listeners?
First, speed-wise, I was a bit concerned about making sure I got to the studio on time, so I think I went a little bit too quick. And I'm getting loads of support, getting bibbed by loads of people as I go along.
Brilliant.
Yeah, they're telling him to get out of the way.
Get out of the way now. So we've got 3 miles to go. Roughly, how long will it take you to get from here, which is Luton Hoo, to our studios in Hastings Street in Luton?
21 to 23 minutes.
Really? Right,
So
okay.
22 minutes.
I'm not going to lose you this time. Go on, get going now. Thank you, Matthew. There you go. Matthew Loddy. He's doing 30 marathons in 30 days. He kicks off this weekend in Edinburgh. Wow, he's going fast here.
All right,
Wow,
girls.
look at
All
him.
right, girl.
He's like Roadrunner, so he's off.
All right,
and
girl.
he'll be joining you live in the studio
All right, just-
in around 22 minutes' time. Stop taking the mickey. Thank you very much.
I'm not taking the mickey, just. I've just lost my guest this morning, just. That's all.
Ian,
Yes.
can I just say, a lot of people have actually been approaching the radio.
Oh, I've accidentally... Justin, I'm so sorry. We seem to have lost the signal. I thought Mark had fixed it, but it appeared not. That's a shame. Jonathan Vernon-Smith is in the studio.
That's me.
And you are going to give me a hug later on, you've said.
Well, no, I didn't actually say I'd give you a hug. What I said was you were moaning and groaning about your car.
Right, yes.
And I said, anything I can do to help?
Yes.
You know, I mean, I do deal with consumer problems every day, so anything I can do to help.
Yeah.
I've got lots of contacts in Beds, Hearts and Bucks in the car industry.
Right.
Anything I can do to help. That was the kind of thing I was thinking of.
Right.
Instead, you said, yeah, you can give me a hug later.
I didn't say it with that weird kind of pervy face on me.
It was a little bit...
there was nothing sexual about it at all.
A little bit suggestive, to be honest.
You can't do me for that. You cannot do me for that. Don't you dare send an email complaining about sexy harassment in this studio.
Well, I just wanted to get it out there on the air.
You make me sick.
No, you can have a hug later if you want one.
Thank you very much. Just not from you, from a member of your team. Now, listen, you've been causing your audio booze. Your little clip from yesterday's show has caused controversy, I think.
It seems to have done, absolutely.
For those who missed it, what was it? Because you're talking about this in your show today, aren't you?
Yes, on the big phone in this morning, I'm going to be asking, of course, it's budget day today, isn't it? So
yes, happy budget day.
Happy budget day to you too.
Yes.
9, I'm asking, are you frustrated by our benefit system? As George Osborne is preparing to deliver today's budget, there are calls for him to stop what the TUC is calling damaging welfare cuts. The government has already announced a £26,000 cap on benefits, which will be introduced where we live in July, on July the 15th to be precise. The TUC says that people's living standards are under threat of being severely reduced. But should anyone on benefits be able to enjoy a quality of life that's better than someone who works? Yesterday on my programme, I spoke to Sarah from Hemel. She gets £1,700 a month on benefits, as well as help with her mortgage. This is what she told me.
I took a really big jump and decided to leave my job to look after the children, and I'm now on benefits. And my biggest regret is that I didn't do it sooner, because my disposable income is now more than what it was before. I just think that is crazy that I was working full time, but now that I'm on benefits, I'm actually better off.
£1,700 a month.
But you don't get the pride. The pride. I mean, we don't get any pride doing this nonsense. But if you were doing a proper job, the pride from crafting and making things.
You think that's enough of an incentive?
Maybe not.
Lots of my listeners have been wanting to talk about this, and yesterday we ran out of time because Sarah was on just before the news.
Yep.
So this morning I want everyone to be able to have their say on this. Are you frustrated by our benefit system? Perhaps you're frustrated because you are also on benefits but get nowhere near the amount that Sarah's on, and you're actually really struggling. Or perhaps you get really frustrated that there is anybody earning that amount of money when you consider loads and loads of people, after tax and national insurance and everything else they've had to pay, come home with far less than £1,700 a month. To be just given that by the state, is that outrageous? Or do you think, no, it's perfectly reasonable? If you've got 2 children to bring up, they need to have a decent standard of life. This is Great Britain, after all. 08459 455 555. Are you frustrated by our benefit system? We'll discuss it at 9.
Come here. Come on. Come and give it to me
God.
now. Come and give it to me now. Come and give me the loving.
I'm not a very huggy...
Come on. Come on, put your arms around me. Oh,
right.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Oh, I feel so much better.
Do you like that? You smell nice, actually, don't you?
Yes, I stayed in a very classy hotel last night, as I've told you.
Lovely. A Fengel.
Can someone Google Fengel and find out what that word means? I suspect it's an insult.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
You could so tell he didn't want that hug to take place. There was a real reluctance. Only one arm went round me. Now, wind turbines, almost the height of the London Eye, could be built in Buckinghamshire if they're approved at a meeting later today. Aylesbury Vale District Council will decide whether to give permission for 4 turbines and associated buildings to be put up in Stoke Hammond. Well, a similar project led to 7 turbines being put up at Emberton near Milton Keynes in 2010. Our reporter, Ewan Duncan, visited the area to see if there's still the same strength of feeling among local residents nearly 3 years later.
When I first saw them, it was driving up to look at the house, and I thought they were rather graceful. So it didn't bother us at all. Our old landmark used to be Didcot Power Station, so it's a huge improvement on that. I can understand people not wanting them close to them, but these are a long way from us. Though you can still hear them on a windy day when the wind is in our direction.
Our television has been virtually destroyed. Everything goes through a small box, but we don't get half the programmes we used to get. Our other thing is the promises were not kept by the wind farm developers.
And have you been able to do anything about the television aerial situation?
We've had an aerial company out 4 times, but we have not had complete success.
I'm not really happy with them. They are a blot on the landscape. You can see them for miles. Plus, we're not benefiting from them in any way at all. My electricity certainly hasn't gone down, so I don't see the point of them.
Although the actual view from some of the houses here, it's shielded in a way, isn't it?
Some of them it is as well, but I think once you get some up, then you want more. For instance, there's going to be one at the back, which we will be able to see out of our windows. We don't know when that's going through or not. There were grants available, but it didn't include solar panelling, so you think, what else could you use it for? You know, there was meant to be sort of money available for local residents to maybe do something, some sort of thing to, you know, reduce their bills, but it definitely did not include solar panels on your roof, which is what most people really would have gone for.
Well, Sally Lefkoskis lives in Stoke Hammond and is worried about the impact the wind turbines will have on the area. Morning, Sally.
Good morning.
Sally,
Thank you for letting me come on your show.
You're very welcome. Why are you so worried?
Well, my interest is in aviation as well as health matters for personal reasons, apart from 1 or 2 other people in the village. And like most people, until you have an application like this on your own doorstep, you tend not to take so much interest other than when it directly affects you. I couldn't understand why anybody would possibly put wind turbines when we have so much low-flying aircraft in the area. And I suppose maybe I'm a little bit more attuned to it, because I remember back in 1998 when I was feeding my children their tea in the kitchen, and I thought a helicopter was coming through our roof. We actually had a helicopter crash in Stoke Hammond. And I've taken it up from there, really, because I really just do not believe that they can possibly site turbines when there are so much.
Sally, are you saying that you're worried an aeroplane is going to crash into one of these?
Yes, and that is serious. Yes, I seriously am.
Wow. There would have to be a very low-flying aeroplane, wouldn't it?
Well, we do have lots of low-flying aircraft around here, and I mean, I've looked into this massively. I'm not an aviation expert, but I've checked, I have double-checked. I've had a good team of aviation experts behind me to check my facts, and it's a massively complex subject, which I think has been ignored. And what I would like to do is concentrate on the reasons why Aylesbury Vale have decided that aviation is not grounds to reject the application on aviation safety. I mean, it's a much bigger, wider subject than that. It's a public safety issue, completely aside from any renewable energy or political statement whatsoever. And the reason being is because we are actually here right on the edge of controlled airspace. We're in uncontrolled airspace. Now, in Force 9's declaration.
This is the company that want to build the wind turbines.
That's right. Yes, they have concentrated on Luton Airport's input and have stated that there is no impact under controlled airspace. We know Luton won't object. It's not controlled airspace here. There's different levels of airspace. We are in the lowest level. That means over open countryside, planes can pretty well fly as low as they want. there is a rule which means that they are not allowed to fly less than 500 feet over vehicles, people, houses, structures, vessels. But apart from that, they fly really low. Now, in addition to that...
Very quickly, if you can, because we're running out of time. You've got 20 seconds.
Sorry. Cranfield Airport have got instrument approach procedures which are higher, and there is just not physically enough space to fit in all this mixed visual aircraft traffic with instrument control.
OK, Sally, we have to end it. I think you got your point across there. Sally, of course, who lives in Stoke Cammon, she's worried that aeroplanes might crash into the wind turbines. What do you make of that? 08459 455 555. Is that really a possibility? Any aviation experts out there that could verify that one way or another? Right, let's get the travel news now. Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And it's still pretty slow on the M1 southbound after the accident earlier at junction 11 Dunstable. They've managed to clear that now. The lane has reopened. It was lane 1 that was shut, but still pretty busy. The A5 in Dunstable is looking slow between the A505 and the M1 at junction 9. The A41 is slow this morning through Aylesbury around the Woodlands roundabout, and also in Hemel Hempstead from the A414 to the M25. In Watford, heavy traffic on Chalk Hill near the Bushy Arches. On the M25 you'll find queues anti-clockwise from junction 17 at Maple Cross to 15 at the M4. It's looking slow at the M40 turning at junction 16, though once you get onto the M40 that's moving OK. Clockwise M25 is slow approaching the roadworks at junction 23. They run from junction 23 to 25. Slow on the southbound A10 in Enfield. We've got heavy traffic between Bullsmore Lane and Southbury Road, and queues this morning on the A1 around Boreham Wood between the Holiday Inn and the A41 at Mill Hill. Trains are looking fine. Bit of advice for anyone who's going to meet friends or family at Luton Airport. Now, delays are possible today for passengers arriving into the UK and going through border controls. This is because of industrial action by some UK border agency staff, so just be aware of that. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you. 8:31 News and Sport now with Catherine.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. The Chancellor George Osborne delivers his budget this afternoon. Amid speculation, he'll reveal forecast for another fall in growth, and many experts believe he'll have to borrow more. A 40-year-old man will appear before Luton magistrates later, charged with sexually assaulting an 80-year-old woman in Houghton Regis. And almost 250,000 civil servants are expected to take strike action today as the PCS union protests over pay, pensions and working conditions.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
MK Dons lost 2-1 at Crewe last night and had defender Anthony Kay sent off in the second half for 2 yellow cards. The defeat damages the side's slim chances of making the playoffs. Manager Carl Robinson was not happy.
I apologise for the fans who made the trip down today. I have to hold my hands up and accept the responsibility of us being very, very poor. That was a shambles. I've just told them in there. Some of them might be playing for the football club this next season. Keep up performance like that. That's not good enough. It's not acceptable.
Also in League One, Stevenage lost 2-0 at Bury. Borough goalkeeper Steve Arnold saved from the penalty spot in the first half, but Stevenage just couldn't avoid defeat. Boss Gary Smith couldn't hide his frustration.
Continues our long run of Jekyll and Hyde performances, and I would suspect everybody that had seen the game on Saturday would agree that it bore no resemblance to what they'd seen at home against Sheffield United, and you know that has been the challenge for the coaching staff and the players to find some consistency, and yet again tonight we've not found it.
I'm afraid there was also disappointment for Wycombe Wanderers in League 2. The Chairboys lost 1-0 at Bradford. But Luton Town returned to winning ways in the conference last night, beating Stockport 1-0 at Kenilworth Road. Skipper Steve McNulty scored the only goal in the first half, leaving manager John Still almost impressed.
I'm really pleased with how we're going defensively. We're not making the most of our opportunities. I think we should have done better with our opportunities. I thought we were worthy of more goals. That's the only disappointment now.
In Conference North, Bishop Stortford lost 2-0 at home to Harrogate. In the Southern Premier Division, Chesham beat Bashley 3-1. Bedford lost 3-0 at Leamington, and Hemel Hempstead beat Bedworth 2-1. And some sports news just in. Kings Langley marathon man Matthew Loddy's been spotted thundering past Luton Who in a Lycra one-piece. He's running 18 miles to the studio this morning just to speak to Iain Lee. He clearly hasn't heard the show. And that's your latest news in sport.
No, that's out of order.
More from Iain.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Luton.
Luton Who?
Yeah, you just said it.
You did a joke.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning. A lot to cram in the next 30 minutes before Jonathan Vernon Smith. It could be a little bit random. We're hoping that our runner is approaching the studios, and we will, fingers crossed, we'll be able to... Ollie Bayliss, our work experience, is outside. Ollie, is there any sign of him yet?
No, there isn't. I can't see him anywhere. I'm not quite sure which way he's going to be approaching from, though.
Okay, he'll be the man running, so that will be a clue.
Oh, okay.
Can you describe the atmosphere there, Ollie?
It's very tense. Very, very cold, but also tense.
Yeah. And how many people are there with you as part of this welcoming committee?
Well, it's pretty much just me, I'll be honest.
Ouch. That's awkward. Okay, well, if you can just do your best to try and... Could you make some noise? Could you shout, like, yay, 3 counties and things like that?
Yay, 3 counties! Woo!
Okay. Okay, well, Justin Daly. Justin, we'll come back to you in a second. I've got no idea what's going on there. It sounds like he's underwater. What could possibly go wrong? We're following a man running 18 miles to come to the studio, all to raise awareness for the excellent charity Teenage Cancer Trust, who do some superb work. I've done some bits and pieces with them, including getting to announce The Who live on stage. Doesn't get much cooler than that, does it? We'll try and find Justin Dealey. Although, to be honest, his contribution this morning really has been rather slack. I think, you know, he lost our guest, for goodness sake. His one job today was to drive comfortably in a car and find our guest. Justin, are you there? No, I can't hear you now, Justin, at all. What on earth is going on? I don't know what's going on there. We'll try and come back to Justin a little bit later on. 08459 455 555. It's the budget today. Happy Budget Day to you, dear listener. How are you celebrating? Huh? What are you doing to celebrate the budget? We've been asking you, I've been giving you the job. You are the Chancellor today. What would you do to make your life a bit better? Or the country's life a bit better? Well, Daryl's in Hazelmead. Morning, Daryl.
Morning.
Daryl, you're the Chancellor. What are you going to do in your budget?
Right, I'll cut the wages of all the MPs for a start off.
By how much?
By at least 30%, because they're earning too much for sitting around drinking and doing nothing apart from having a chat amongst themselves.
Daryl, what is the going rate for an MP? Something like 67,000.
64,000 or something, isn't it? It's ridiculous. And they're moaning about they're cutting their expenses and everything. Well,
64 grand for a responsible job like a Member of Parliament, though. It doesn't seem that excessive to me.
Responsible, sorry. I would like to know what your views of responsible are, because from what I can see about it, there's nothing responsible about it.
So you'd cut their wages down to about 40 grand a year, would you?
I would. Okay. I think, you look at the minimum wage, put them on the minimum wage, or else, even better, put them on performance-related pay. That's what they wanted to do with the police at one point. So when they start proving what they can do, then they can get a bit of money out of it.
Okay. Anything else you do, Daryl?
Yep, I would probably cut the amount of... You look at the Conservatives, the way they're doing it. I know I'm supposed to be a Conservative for the day, which, God forgive me, I wouldn't want to be. But when they come into power, they're doing exactly what they've done all through history. Make it good for the rich, make it bad for the poor. Allowing everyone in from Europe, all they're doing is putting strain on the National Health Service, putting strain on all the resources. They should do what all the other countries do in Europe and turn around and say, look, if you want to come into the country, that's fine, we've got no problem with that, but you have to have at least 3 generations of your family here before you start allowing...
Daryl, I've got your point there. I'm not sure if all the countries in Europe do that, but Daryl, thank you very much indeed. I have to cut you short because we're going to go live to our work experience boy, Ollie, who is outside the 3 Counties studio. Ollie, what's the latest on our marathon man?
Hi, Ian. Well, I'm outside the building, and he's just arriving now. Hello. I'm with Matthew now. How are you, Matthew? You don't actually look that tired, considering you've just run 18 miles from your home in Kings Langley.
Yeah, I don't feel too bad. It was I went off a little bit too quick, panicking that I wasn't going to get here on time. And I steadied up from sort of halfway and got a bit of rhythm, bobbed along and made it, so it's fine.
I can tell you, Ian, he looks like he's just jogged about 100 yards. He doesn't look any more tired than that.
You sound more out of breath than he does. Have you got evidence? Did you see him running towards you? He didn't just jump out of a cab or anything, did he?
Well, he came around the corner, so I only saw him run about 10 metres, so I don't know. I've got no evidence.
We've all done that trick on the cross-country run at school. We've all pretended... We've thrown some water in ourselves and pretended we've run a long way. Ollie, I don't know if this is explained to you. Part of your job now is to give him a good rub down all over. Okay, Ollie's obviously got so excited at that prospect that he's dropped off the line to go and give our marathon man a good rub down and make sure he's not so sweaty when he comes in. We'll be speaking to him just after 9:15 this morning. Good for him. Are we sure he ran that far? Because he didn't sound out of breath in the slightest. Dealey doing an interview sounds more out of breath than that. He sounded very calm and collected. I'm confused by that, to be honest. We've been talking about wind turbines, and some planning permission will either get the thumbs up or the thumbs down today about these wind turbines. Well, Dean Jackson is also against them. Dean, what's your problem with these wind turbines?
My problem with these wind turbines is the fact that my house is approximately 800 metres away from them, and all my living areas, or residential amenity as the developer likes to call it, actually face the proposed development. Now, the reason I'm concerned is I have a young daughter who's 8. Her bedroom faces onto them, the living room, all the main areas of the garden. And the problem with them is they're too damn close, when obviously I've got a south-facing view onto this development. When the sun sets behind these turbines, it causes something called shadow flicker. And that means the light in the house is basically switched on and off where the sun sets behind the blades. And that's going to have a major impact on my property. The developer has actually stated my property will be a less pleasant place to live. That's why I'm not happy with this development. If someone was to build a 44-storey block of flats next to a house and then put a giant windmill on the top of it, I'm sure that would cause objection as well. But that's exactly what this is.
Well, it's not quite the same as a 44-storey block of flats, is it? Because a block of flats is obviously a much wider building. I would imagine this is a slimmer pole with the turbine on the top.
Well, the turbine blades are 90 metres across. Yeah. That is not small.
No. I'm saying the body of the turbine, the pole going up to it, is nowhere near as big as a block of flats, is it?
It's not as big as a block of flats, no, but there's 4 of them.
Well, but Dean, stay there. Let's speak to Paul in Bletchley. Paul?
Yes, hello there.
You live near the wind turbines in Milton Keynes, do you?
Well, I'm a couple of miles away, but when I walk my dog, I'd certainly see them as soon as I go across to the fields.
What do you think about the ones in Milton Keynes? Is there anything you can say that could help appease Dean, who's very concerned about the effect it's going to have on his property?
No, I don't live near Petstow End or Emberton, where the ones are. No, I live near Stoke Hammond.
Okay.
I'm actually on the Lakes Estate, which is about 2 miles away. But
right. And what's your view on these turbines?
Well, I'm a bit ambivalent, to be honest. I mean, I think I think there's a lot of hidden smoke screens on this. I think it's more to do with house prices. Perhaps people in Great Brick will overlook the value there. You know, I mean, people are bringing up all these things about aircraft, etc. Well, they look after themselves, don't they? I mean, they wouldn't build them if the MOD said no, etc. But it's a good site. I mean, the thing is that I'd rather have wind turbines on my doorstep than a nuclear power station. I mean, you can decommission a wind turbine in 6 months or something. 20 years to decommission a nuclear power station. It's
Paul, Dean, what would you prefer, wind turbines or nuclear?
Well, let's face it, this is EDF. They've just electricity to France. This isn't clean British energy at all. I'd rather that EDF didn't build nuclear or wind turbines in our country.
So hang on a minute. If it was a British company that was building wind turbines, would that make it a little bit more palatable?
Well, no, because the British developer, themselves, is Force 9 Energy,
right,
which are British.
Right, but if the energy was purely good, clean British energy that we weren't selling to the damned Frenchies, would you be happy with that?
No, because it would still have the developer has stated it will have a major impact on my house.
Just wonder why you mentioned it then.
My house will be a more unpleasant place to live.
Yeah. Ian?
Yes, Paul. Hang on one second. Dean, hang on 1 second. Paul, go on.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, these turbines, as the gentleman said, they are 800 metres, half a mile away. You've got the West Coast main line. You've got a 4-lane Stoke Hammond bypass in between. I mean, I think noise is irrelevant, really, for the people who live in Stoke Hammond. It's more maybe a visual thing. I mean, I must admit that they should investigate an idea of perhaps putting 20 smaller ones than 4 big ones. Maybe the government should be subsidising the smaller ones. I mean, okay, you get more wind higher up, but I have read reports about some of these. The smaller turbines are very effective.
Dean, would that be a compromise? Instead of 4 big ones, 20 smaller ones?
Well, let's look at the. You mentioned the bypass and the West Coast Main Line. They mainly run through cuttings. They are not sitting above the ground 125 metres. The plan, as it stands, is not for 20 small ones. It is for 125 metre ones.
Would you be happy with that if that were the plan?
Well, how high are you talking? If the problem I have is they have said it will be a major impact on my house, and they will make my house a less pleasant place to live.
Listen, OK, thank you very much. I think you got that point. We'll be following that story closely. The planning application goes through today, and we'll find out whether Aylesbury Vale Council give it the thumbs up or indeed the thumbs down. Thank you for that, Dean, and also thank you, Paul. Travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's still looking pretty slow this morning on the M1. We've got delays heading southbound after there was an accident earlier this morning around Junction 11 at Dunstable. Lane 1 was closed off, open now, but busy nonetheless. Heading London bound, you've also got delays slightly further down the M1 from Junction 6 at Bricketwood through to 5 at Watford. The clockwise M25 is looking slow, approaching the roadworks, Junction 23 at the A1M. Those works continue from Junction 23 to 25. Anti-clockwise, it's queuing either side of the M40 junction, Junction 17 at Maple Cross to 15 at the M4. In Aylesbury, the A41 busy between the Oxford Road roundabout and the Walton Street roundabout. Watford, you'll find Chalk Hill pretty slow at the Bushy Arches, and in Dunstable, the A5 is looking rather heavy this morning, with traffic building between the A505 and Lynch Hill. Trains still looking good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. On Facebook, we've got a few posts, most of them saying that actually wind turbines, don't see the problem. Danica says better than a pylon. Kane says, would you like one where you live? I would. Claire says wouldn't bother me. Monique says I can't understand what all the fuss is about. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Do you see a problem with these wind turbines? Right, it's 8:46. It's Wednesday the 20th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. A 40-year-old man will appear before Luton magistrates later, charged with sexually assaulting an 80-year-old woman in Houghton Regis. The Chancellor, George Osborne, delivers his budget this afternoon. It's thought he'll reveal forecasts for another fall in growth, and many experts believe he'll have to borrow more. In sport, the England forwards coach Graham Rowntree says he's seeking clarification from the International Rugby Board over the performance of referee Steve Walsh in Saturday's 30-3 defeat to Wales. Coming up, the marathon man from Kings Langley has arrived in the building. We'll be speaking to him very shortly, but before that, let's get the latest weather with Lara Lewington.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, a cold and cloudy start to the day and a fair few showers emerging over the coming hours as well. By this afternoon, though, we should start to see a few breaks in the cloud cover and a little bit of sunshine mixed in with things. The only thing is, those temperatures aren't going to be topping 5 degrees. So a very chilly picture, and by tonight, even though all the wet weather will have cleared away, it's going to be a pretty cold night. Clear skies leaving way for a widespread ground frost, and those temperatures dropping as low as -3. So tomorrow getting off to a dry but bright start with some very low temperatures.
Every weekday from 3, Roberto Perrone with the best local news stories.
There's a sporting story emerging. Paul Buckle has left Luton Town Football Club by mutual consent.
The owners of the Centre MK have withdrawn a part of an application regarding the Primark development.
Local talking points.
The Hertfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner, Mr David Lloyd, has a plan to get sponsorship for police cars.
The best local travel.
There's been another day of disruption on the Thameslink line today.
We were allowed evacuating from the train and we had to go back to Ratchet, and now we're waiting for the bus.
Roberto Perrone, every weekday from 3 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it's been an exciting morning. We thought we'd try something different, and it almost didn't work, but luckily it has. The marathon man from Kings Langley has arrived in the studio. We've been following his progress all morning on his run from Kings Langley to our studio here in Luton. Matthew Loddy previously ran 100 marathons in 100 days. If you just run 18 miles in a couple of hours, that's got to be a piece of cake for you, isn't it?
Not quite a piece of cake, but it was okay. Not too bad.
You're doing 30 marathons in 30 days that you're running for the Teenage Cancer Trust starting on Saturday. some might say, Matthew, that you're kind of letting the side down a bit because you've gone from 100 marathons in 100 days, 30 marathons in 30 days. What's wrong? You're getting old or something? What's the problem?
Well, yes, definitely getting old. I did 100 marathons because I promised someone I would.
Yeah.
So this is a different challenge. It's to highlight Teenage Cancer Trust. I'm running to and from every Teenage Cancer Trust unit across Scotland, England and Wales, finishing on the Saturday at University College Hospital, London, and doing the London Marathon on Sunday the 21st.
I'm laughing because you're just... it's a ridiculous thing. Tell me about the 100 marathons first. There's a story behind that, isn't there, why you decided to do that?
Yes, there is. One of our colleagues at work and a very good friend of mine called Philip Latham, unfortunately, he started working with us when he was 18, and unfortunately at 34 he was diagnosed with stomach cancer. He had a major operation. It was looking very good. He had some positive signs just before Christmas 2009, and he went in for a little operation after Christmas in 2010, and unfortunately they opened him up and said, unfortunately it's spread and that's it, there's nothing more we can do. We, in the build-up to him and all the positive signs, we decided to set up a little charity and raise money for cancer awareness, cancer care, and do a sponsored walk, 100 marathons in 100 days, right, from London to Portugal. When he was diagnosed that was it, unfortunately it was terminal, he wasn't going to make it. I didn't know what to say, and I went in to see him very awkwardly. He said, well, you've let me down on the sponsored walk. He laughed, and it sort of broke the ice a bit, and I said I couldn't stop myself speaking. I said, well, I'll do it myself and I'll run it, and I'll run 100 marathons in 100 days. And I couldn't, my brain was telling me to stop speaking, but my mouth carried on going.
Well, listen, we've all done that kind of thing where something comes out, it's like, who said that? Hang on a second. How did... You claim you're not a runner.
No, I'm not. I played football. I run short distances. I did a half marathon about 13 years ago. Yeah. Was my last distance. I do the odd 10k thing I used to do with Phil, actually. Every now and again we'd go and do a Watford 10k and take sort of 55 minutes to do it. And I promised to do this, so I started training, couldn't run over 6 miles, met a fella called Cliff King, who's an ultra runner, went out with him, changed the way you think, changed everything about me.
Is it the mental process?
Completely mental process, completely.
So what did you change?
Well, you have to stop thinking about running. I know that sounds strange, but if you think, you've got 26 miles to do, it's a killer. You can't. It's too far for me to comprehend. If you think you've got to do 100 of them, it's even worse. Yeah. So I just break it down into each kilometre, and I do 42 kilometres, 42.2, and I just break it down to that, and that's how you said it. Just take the next kilometre at a time and get comfortable. 90% rhythm, 10% effort, and the fitter you get, the easier it is to get a steady pace.
Karen, your wife, is here. Morning, Karen.
Morning.
If you come a little bit closer to the microphone, what did you think when he said? I know it's a weird setup. We can't see each other. Right? What did you think when he said, "Oh, I'm going to do 100 marathons in 100 days"?
Well, first of all, I thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
But I knew he would do it, and obviously he was inspired by Phil.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
At no point did you think, do you know what, I'm going to join him with this, because this looks like a fun thing to do. I'm going to come and run these marathons as well. Did that ever cross your mind?
Well, I did run a bit.
Right.
But I didn't ever do a marathon. I just did... we joined him on a couple and did sort of like a few miles, so, yeah.
Has it made him fitter? Is he doing more around the house now because he's fitter?
No.
Oh, really?
Much less.
Oh, he comes home and has one of those ice baths and then just put his feet up watching EastEnders, is it?
Yeah, that's right. So. Yeah.
Why the Teenage Cancer Trust now? Why have you moved to this charity specifically?
Well, it was something... When I spoke to Phil and we looked at it, we were on about cancer care before Phil went into the final stages and his end-of-term care, which was at the Hospital St Francis, which was absolutely fabulous. Phil's attitude and Phil's approach, I just had the horrible task of trawling through the internet looking at charities, and I looked at them all, and Teenage Cancer Trust just jumped out at me. Yeah. It looked more like an advert for a concert than it did a cancer charity, and the more I read, it brought to light a situation where I met Phil when he was 18 years old. I considered him a young person. Teenage Cancer Trust is up to 25, and it seemed extremely relevant to him. I read about it, the situation that I hadn't really thought of. If you're 16 years old and you get cancer, and you go into a normal cancer unit, you're in with the 2-year-olds. If you're 17, you could be in with the 84-year-olds.
Yeah.
This is specifically designed to get people treated together with the specific treatments for their age group of cancers, and recouping together and going through all their experiences together, so they don't talk about cancer, they don't think about it. That's a given. They're sitting there, they're in these units, they have cancer, but they're all in the same stages. They all have no hair. They're all talking about the X Factor or the football, or they're talking about normal things kids talk about.
I've done some work for Teenage Cancer Trust. They very kindly allowed me to introduce The Who live on stage once. It was one of the coolest moments of my life. And what people kind of think... People define people by their illness, don't they? So it's people with cancer, so they're going to be sitting in their beds just talking about cancer. Of course they're not. These are kids. These are kids who just happen to have cancer, but they're still talking about stuff that kids talk about and young people talk about, aren't they?
Oh, they certainly are. And you spend a bit of time in the units. There's a new unit just opened up that we went up to a couple of weeks ago. And these kids, when you spend time with them, you walk out and some of them are annoying. Some of them are just normal kids.
Of course they are.
And it's brilliant when you walk out with that attitude afterwards. You think, what a fantastic place.
Yeah.
They're not being treated any differently. They're getting the expert care that they need. It's positive results coming out of it. It's a very, very worthwhile thing. And there's still not enough units. There's another 3 being built at the moment. So I think that'll make it 26. And round here, the nearest one is Cambridge to here, or central London. So there's a need for it, and it needs to grow, and it needs to get in as many areas as possible.
Well, let's do the business side so we can raise a few quid. How do people make a donation, Karen?
They can make a donation by doing a text donation.
Right.
Which is text...
It's Run 30.
Run 30.
Yes.
Text 70300.
So text the word Run 30, the number 30, to 70300. That's £3. And that's £3 in your charge, network charge. £3 goes straight to the charity. They get all of that, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yes, they do. There's no administration from us whatsoever. All the costs we pay for, so there's no...
And is there a website or anything like that people can come and look at you at?
Yes, there is. There's www.frameworkfoundation.co.uk.
Right.
There's different ways people can get involved. I'm doing... Each day we're having sponsors. We've sold the first 10 shirts for this event. We're looking.
You're selling your sweaty shirts?
I'm selling my sweaty shirts for people to put their name on.
I've seen websites like that, yeah.
For them to put their name on. We've had great response from companies so far. We've sold the first 10, so we're looking for the next 20 to go.
Yeah.
The name gets put on. They're the day sponsors, and that obviously is a way to raise it. People can make a one-off donation. They can pay directly into. There's PayPal. There's Just Giving. Everything's on the website.
What does it do to your body running that many marathons? It can't be good for you.
Well, it's different. For me, it hurt more at the beginning than it does now. I've got a few injuries at the moment. I hurt my back about 3 weeks ago, which is causing a little bit of a sciatic problem down my right hamstring. So that's a little bit of a problem. But as I've run more, I've learnt how to run. I land more on the front foot instead of the heel.
Yeah.
I'm changing trainers as I go along, so less cushioning and a bit lighter and a bit different to run.
Yeah.
Learning how not to put the impact through your knees. I stopped playing football because I had knee operations, and now I'm running without any knee problems.
Wow.
I get aches and I get pains and you get blisters and you get sore, but the same as anything else. And the general fitness level has raised, and I've lost 2.5 stone, so it can't be too bad.
Well, don't lose any more. There's nothing of you. You are making me sick. Look how relaxed he looks. Like he's just got up, strolled in, looking very nice, very calm. When you're doing this, and you said that a lot of it is psychological, it's changing the way you're thinking. What happens if your mind goes off track a bit and you suddenly realise that you're on day 20 and you've got another 10 days to go? Or doesn't that happen? Are you completely trained now?
No, that happens. On the 100, I was very focused on getting the challenge started.
Yeah.
And it was all a big send-off, and it was really emotional, and the first marathon went out of the way. My first marathon of this, I did it in 3:39. And I was ecstatic for about 2 hours.
3:39's a good time as well.
Yes, for the first one of the 100 was very, very good. And I did it, got back home ready for the next day, and it dawned on me that I've got to do it 99 more times, and that took a bit of straightening in my mind to refocus, and I have to every now and again sort of tell myself what I'm doing it for, what it's all about, and focus. And it's a good challenge.
Okay, well, you're doing the London Marathon as well. What are the chances of you winning that? All this training,
I think
a favourite, haven't you?
I'm not favourite to win it. I don't think.
That's a shame. Well, listen, Matthew, I think you're mental, but I think you're doing a brilliant job. Congratulations.
Thank you very much,
Karen. Are you with him all the time, or do you kind of get some spare time at home, bit of peace?
I'm not with him all the time, and obviously when he's doing the marathons, he likes to keep... We're going to be going back and forth, but he likes to keep very focused. And
so you had Justin Dealey annoying you this morning. I can only apologise for that. Him puffing away on a fag while you're running on.
I'm trying to convince them to join us in the Watford 10K.
There's no chance. There's no chance of Dealey doing that. I get look. Yeah, good luck with that. Listen, if you want to make a donation, £3 donation, text the word RUN 30. So it's the word RUN, the number 30 to 70300. Teenage Cancer Trust receives 100% of every text donation. The donation costs £3 plus one standard text message. Matthew, Karen, thank you so much for coming in. Best of luck. We'll speak to you when you finish as well. We won't get you running in. Maybe we'll let you kind of get the bus in or something like that. Best
Thank
of luck.
you very
much. That's the end of the show. Look at that. What a lot we crammed in. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Cheers, Ian. Things starting to look a little bit better out there. Northbound M1's a bit slow, though. Delays from junction 13 at Bedford through to 14 at Milton Keynes. And then there are roadworks, the hard shoulder closed, and a speed restriction from junction 14 to 15. London bound, it's starting to ease off, though. Bricketwood through to Watford, junction 6 to 5. M25's looking better, clockwise approaching the roadworks at junction 23. Anti-clockwise, though, still queuing from Maple Cross to the M4 past the M40. In Cheshunt, you'll find it busy on the A10, particularly round Winston Churchill Way. Then through Enfield, it's heavy from Bullsmore Lane to Southbury Road. The A1 in Boreham Wood's been queuing most of the morning, still is, between the Holiday Inn and the A41 at Mill Hill. Trains across the three counties are looking good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Well, that's it for this morning. Thank you to everyone who took part. Thank you again to Matthew for running 18 miles just to come on. We should make all of our guests do that, I'm thinking. I'll be back tomorrow at 6. JVS is up next. Until then, ta-ta.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. It's Wednesday. And on today's Big Phone-In, I'm asking, are you frustrated by our benefit system? As George Osborne is preparing to deliver today's budget, there are